Recording in progress.
Comrade Anton Mziwakhe Lambete, who said, I quote, "Freedom is an indispensable condition for all progress and development. It will only be when Africans are free that they will be able to exploit fully and bring the fruition their divine talent and contribute something new towards the general welfare and prosperity of mankind." I close quote. Last year, Honorable Chair, we spoke about renewal of our movement as the ANC, which is unfolding in front of our eyes. This year, we are extending a call for unity and socio-economic renewal for the whole nation. Honorable Chairperson and fellow South Africans, on the 24th of February 2021, the Minister of Finance tabled a national budget outlining the government priorities for the fiscal year 2021-22 and the medium-term expenditure period. This was in line with Section 214, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which requires that every year a Division of Revenue Act should determine the equitable division of nationally raised revenue between national, provincial, and local government. On the 18th of March 2021, the bill was passed by the National Assembly and referred to the NCOP Committee for consideration and report as per Section 9, subsection 2 of the Money Bill Act. But due to COVID-19 pandemic, the committee decided that all provincial portfolio committees on finance and or treasury should be part of the meeting, wherein the committee was briefed by National Treasury on the 10th of March 2021. Honorable Chairperson, the committee consulted with the PBO, FFC, and SALGA. Advertisements calling for public submissions were published in the national and regional print media in all 11 official languages, and the committee received and considered written submissions from COSATU and SALGA on the 12th of May 2021. The NCOP, through its permanent delegates, briefed some provinces between the 3rd and 11th May 2021. Subsequently, the committee received and considered provincial negotiating mandates on the 19th of May 2021 and final mandates on the 26th May 2021. This is an indication that provinces have fully participated in the process as envisaged in Section 214, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Republic. Honorable Chair and members, despite the declining revenue collection and the tough economic situation as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the committee welcomes the efforts demonstrated by government to put together a total budget of 1.8 trillion, of which 639.4 billion will go to provinces, 523.7 billion as an equitable share, and 115.8 billion in conditional grants. Included in the conditional grants funding is an allocation amounting to 451 million rands, which is 140 million rands for provincial disaster relief and 311 million rands for provincial emergency housing for the 2021-22 financial year. The committee noted government's 3 central fiscal objectives, which are: number 1, to narrow the budget deficit and stabilize the debt to GDP ratio, primarily by controlling non-interest expenditure growth. Number 2, to provide continued support to the economy and public health services in the short term, without adding to long-term spending pressures. Number 3, and to improve the composition of spending by reducing growth in compensation of employees while protecting capital investments. The committee welcomed the introduction of a new standard in informal settlement upgrading grant for provinces, which amounts to 12.3 billion rands over the MTEF. Honorable Chair and members, we also welcome the additional 1.5 billion rands for the HIV, TB, malaria, and community outreach grant in 2021-22, and the additional 129 million rands for the direct component of the health facility revitalization grant over the 2021 MTEF, which will fund the construction of the Tygerberg Regional Hospital and Klepfontein Cape. The committee, however, is concerned that no additional allocation is made for the COVID-19 component over the MTEF, given the much anticipated impact in the third wave of the pandemic, which we have experienced already in some provinces. That has already hit at least those provinces are, as per the report, the Northern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, and Northwest. We, Honorable Chairperson, we support the ring fencing of grants such as Statutory Human Resources Training and Development Grant, the Human Settlement Development Grant, and the Mass Participation and Sport Development Grant. Honorable Chair and honorable members, the committee understands and appreciates the magnitude of the current economic challenges and interventions taken by government to address the situation. However, the committee has always expressed concern about the service delivery impact of a blanket approach when cutting conditional grants, and made a recommendation during the 2020 medium-term budget policy statement that National Treasury, together with sector departments, should conduct an impact assessment for these budget cuts. In our deliberations, we welcomed both the direct and indirect transfers to municipalities over the 2021 MTEF period, of which 432.6 billion rand will be directly transferred to local government, and a further 23.7 billion rands is allocated through indirect grants. However, we are concerned about the service delivery impact of the 14.7 billion rands reduction in local government allocation. Thank you, Honorable Member, Chairperson. In conclusion, let me go to the recommendations, Honorable Chairperson. As a way forward, the committee has made the following recommendations. The PBO is required to conduct research on the declining revenue collection by municipalities. The National Treasury, together with the affected sector departments, should quantify service delivery impact on the reduction in all conditional grants. National Treasury, together with national and provincial department, must make sure that proper internal controls and financial management systems are in place in order to achieve spending efficiency and value for money. In concluding, Chairperson, please allow me. I wish to thank all committee members, provincial committee members, committee stakeholders who made submissions, and as well as committee support staff. Without these role players, the process would not have been a success. The committee recommends to the House that the bill be adopted without amendment. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Ms. Chaba Sekhetu ngiyathokoza.
No, siyathokoza. The next speaker is going to be Honorable D. Ryder. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you, Chairperson. The division of bill is where government signals its intentions for on-the-ground service delivery. Honorable Chair, a wise man said something quite relevant in last week's joint sitting debate on the 25th anniversary of our Constitution. Allow me, therefore, to quote myself. If one consults the schedules of this great book, one begins to understand that the real delivery of many of the rights granted in Chapter 2 falls to local and provincial government. When local government fails, the fulfillment of the Constitution fails. I end quote. What we do under the Division of Revenue has a direct impact on the ability of government in its three spheres to tangibly deliver the rights granted by the Bill of Rights. Quite rightly, excuse me, Chair. I beg your pardon, Chair, one moment. I have a slight technical problem.
Yes.
My apologies, Chairperson, I will continue. Quite rightly, the FFC and civil society have asked pointed questions around the constitutionality of this budget and Division of Revenue, noting the impact and the apparent constriction of the ability of provinces and municipalities to deliver on their mandates, especially on an inflation-adjusted basis. And yes, Minister, Treasury repeats the same arguments year after year, submitting that provincial and more especially local government has the ability to raise their own revenue through licenses and levies, rates and taxes, fees, and utility consumption charges. In the current environment, however, Honourable Chairperson, that ability has been dramatically eroded. Personal incomes have dropped, businesses too. Unemployment has skyrocketed. Some of government's relief measures, no matter how well-intentioned, have failed to achieve the desired outcomes. And so even the well-run municipalities are experiencing severe revenue collection shortfalls. The latest round of increases for the bulk supply of utility services from Eskom and the various water board authorities have far exceeded inflation. And considering what municipalities can realistically pass on, will result in serious margin squeeze. In the case of Eskom, that margin squeeze is actually enforced by NERSA, showing apparently little regard for the need to use the margins to maintain and expand reticulation networks. NERSA allows municipalities a lower increase than they allow Eskom for their bulk. Gone are the days when utility margin surpluses could cross-subsidize other aspects of municipalities' functioning. Mr. Minister, I will be the first one to acknowledge that there are two parts to an income statement, and the management of the expenditure portion also needs some serious effort. The increase in the proportion of the budget allocated to local government over the medium term is, of course, acknowledged, but I fear that it remains insufficient to keep up with the demand for service delivery, for fulfillment of the rights that were promised in our Constitution. Honourable Minister, this House focuses a little more closely on the Division of Revenue Bill as we have an explicit role to play. So during our engagements with the provinces, it was a consistent theme that equitable share needs to be reassessed. This is not a new request and has been repeated every year for some time now. The budget Lekgotla was touted as the place for this to happen last year, but the unhappiness remains unchanged during this year's provincial consultations, showing that the outcomes were not successful. A proper and fair discussion needs to take place, preferably under the oversight of members of this House, with no bully boy tactics from Treasury. The state of local government makes this discussion more urgent than urgent. Getting all of the players to share an understanding is probably the first big step that is necessary to find a way forward. With local government elections looming and a probable change in many mayoral seats, the time has never been better. The next issue that I would like to focus on is the assumption that has been used when preparing this Division of Revenue Bill, that there would not be an increase in salary for government employees. It appears from the substantially less combative media statements coming from the Cabinet that there will be an accession to Labour on this front and that discussions have reopened to find a constructive resolution. Failing that, there will no doubt be a withdrawal of Labour, with certain role players already indicating that it will be a debilitating strike. It must be noted that strikes have a serious financial impact. And so we find ourselves in a position where, whatever the outcome, provinces are the ones that are going to have to sit with less money to do the things that they need to do, at a time when the need for government services is increasing as more and more people find themselves financially constrained, to a point where they're becoming increasingly reliant on government-funded healthcare, government grants, government-subsidized public transport, government-funded education, human settlement, etc., etc., etc. Be it the increases in salaries or paying a premium for contractors to step in for striking staff, provinces are going to be forced to foot the bill at the expense of service delivery. The Minister has intimated that the Treasury would take this into account when adjustments are done. But where will the money come from? Minister, the provinces need to know for sure, will you fund a salary increase if the courts demand it, or if your cabinet colleagues negotiate it? Chair, my next comment today is not directed to the Minister or to Treasury. It's an admonishment of the provinces, who are consistent laggards when it comes to participating in this process. It is inexcusable that a provincial legislature does not meet the well-published timelines for the processing of this bill. It's the very fuel that makes your provincial engines go. If you could not be bothered to hold a meeting to decide if you support the apportioning of funds for you to do your work, the very funds that pay your salary, how can you be trusted to run a multi-billion rand institution that is responsible for the lives of literally millions of people? Get your house in order and take responsibility for your role. Justice Zondo has been particularly scathing of the apparent rubber stamping of the work of the executive during the commission that he chairs. Take heed of what he says. Remember that the power lays with you to determine your support or opposition to this bill. Find your voices and make them heard. The chance comes but once a year. That's only 5 times in a term for you to influence and change the lives of people. And yet, Mr. Chairperson, I tend to feel their frustration. I looked at the written responses that were supplied by Treasury to the submissions from the provinces and to the deliberations of our committee, and honestly, I became despondent. The arrogant and condescending tone makes it clear that there's little appetite for Treasury to even consider any of the inputs, which are not in a direct agreement with their own position. The rigidity in applying a single solution across all provinces is consistent throughout their response. It's no wonder that provinces couldn't care less about making submissions, because they'll be ignored anyway. The fact is that the cost of delivering services in different municipalities and provinces should actually be easily quantified as a result of MSCOA. If this is not the case, then what was the point of incurring the substantial costs of implementing this burdensome and complex system? For Treasury to come with a comment, and I quote them, "The use of average cost estimates in the current local government equitable share formula is therefore the fairest way to account for such complex effects." No, this reminds me of the cartoon drawn to demonstrate the difference between equality, equity, and justice. I'll send you a copy, Minister. But in the meantime, I'll stand here and remind members of the recent workshop that we had in the NCOP, where the point was repeated. We are not the victims of the budget. We are members of Parliament. We are the ones that must approve it. Let us remember that and hold the executive to account in the manner that was intended. Chairperson, while the Democratic Alliance thinks that this is generally a good report, we cannot support all of the recommendations in it, and we therefore reject the report. I thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is going to be Honorable N. Dube Ngube. Honorable Dube Ngube. Honorable MEC, please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members. Thank you for the opportunity to present our inputs on this very important budget debate. It gives me a great pleasure on behalf of KwaZulu-Natal delegates to be afforded this opportunity. First and foremost, Honorable Chairperson, allow me to premise my brief debate by joining millions of South Africans in paying tribute to many young people of our glorious land. June, a month, as we know, it is traditionally dedicated to the Youth Month of those youth who stood against apartheid government and laid down their lives to fight for freedom and equal education. It is on the spirit, honorable members and honorable chairperson, that we work hard to reverse even more detrimental socio-economic injustices that continue to beset us. The people of KwaZulu-Natal and the people of this country rank among some of the most magnanimous and resilient in the world. And in that, they continue to look for creative ways in making the country work, despite everything else going not for it. Chairperson, we stand here today on behalf of the people of KwaZulu-Natal, whom we are carrying hopes for a better future and growing South Africa. I am convinced that as the elected public representatives, we will continue to use such sittings to debate profound plans to put in place a radically restructured plans for reconstructing our economy, guided by the shrewd utilization of the public purse. Having been seized with this B3 221, or the Division of Revenue Bill 221, which we are debating today, we are cognizant of a huge burden it places on us to find creative, innovative ways of making it work. However, it is taking an account as well that as tax revenue base continue to buckle under pressure due to dwindling cash reserves, we are able to create a tangible environment that will cushion many other fiscal pressure. Chairperson, this has meant that we need to lower our debt burden that continue to be on actual hills in our efforts to save. Speaking on lowering our debt burden, honorable members, our debt service costs are another challenge that continue to stubbornly weigh on our efforts. Our debt burden and our debt service costs in the context of a lower economic growth and lower anticipated tax revenues have meant that our provincial budgets as KwaZulu-Natal and all other provinces saw a significant budget cuts over the 2021 MTEF. Honorable members, it is important to note that though the bulk of the budget cuts were effected against the provinces of the MTEF, from the decision taken to give public servants a 0% salary increase commencing from 2020-21 onwards. We tabled our provincial budget. We did reveal that we were also able to further do these budget cuts, although in a very difficult situation, I must say, where although we have said to the departments, we must make sure that we do not cut on service delivery. Other departments were not able to avoid cutting on service delivery. They had not to cut on non-service delivery, but unfortunately, the non-service delivery areas were also affected by these budget cuts. It is also on this vein that when we tabled our budget vote as KwaZulu-Natal Treasury, we made a raft of fundamental commitments to assist us further to get a little of what we have in the face of the expenditure pressures. These include, but are not limited to, monitoring and reviewing all the COVID-19 emergency procurement incurred by all the departments, public entities and municipalities, ensuring that on-budget spending in all departments and all public entities throughout an effective and in-year monitoring expenditure, maintain a sound and cash management, and maintain the present favorable provincial cash position throughout the year. Honourable Chairperson, our 2021-22 MTF estimates of our provincial revenue and expenditure indicated that were these budget cuts in various departments and what the impact thereof, it really doesn't look good for us and our communities, unfortunately. I must state, honourable members, that the bulk of our budget cuts emanate from the decision not to budget for annual cost of living increments. This results in KwaZulu-Natal budget being cut by 7.5 billion in 2021-2022, 9.2 billion in 2022-23, and in terms of budget cuts to reduce non-critical posts in the public sector, the budget cuts in this regard are 3.5 billion, 6.5 billion, and 9.9 billion over the MTEF. The fiscal consolidation budget cuts to be effected on the non-personnel portion of our budgets are far lower at an amount of 1.3 billion and 1.7 billion and 3.2 billion over the MTEF. We've made a minor revisions to our provincial owned revenue, partly influenced by the lower economic growth, which means that our provincial owned revenue was revised downwards, unfortunately, due to the income as a result of the COVID impact. It was revised downwards from 4.9 million and 3.7 million over the MTEF. Our provincial equitable share was also affected by the annual updates of the formula that is used to decide on the equitable share division of revenue amongst the 9 provinces, that which are seized with today before this House. These updates show the KZN government losing 335.5 million in 2021-22, while gaining 417.7 million in 2022-23 and 89 million in 23-24. There are additions made in our equitable share. Honourable Chair, we also wish to indicate to honourable members and also thank the honourable members of the NCOP really for representing the provinces in indicating that indeed our situation at the provincial level really does not look good. The decision also to keep the contingency reserve in our province, it is really getting depleted all the time as we try to use this contingency reserve to assist us to cushion our budget as we get depleted. Honourable members, let me end by quoting the Indian Prime Minister, one of our BRICS partners, when he spoke on good governance. Mere good governance is not enough. It has to be pro-people and proactive. Good governance is putting people at the center of development and the process. Based on these prior heads of argument as KwaZulu-Natal, we do support this bill, but also plead with the honourable members and all of us that we do really need to look at how we utilize our expenditures and our pulse as the government, as a country, in a way that puts our people first. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable SF Detroit. Honorable Detroit.
Dankie, agbare voorsitter. Die afgelope paar weke sit ons uur na uur en luister na die gesaanik van persone wat met krokodiltrane snik oor die vreeslike verval van die land. Die ellende waarin ons soveel van ons verkeer, die groeiende gaping tussen ryk en arm en die onreg wat miljoene aangedoen is omdat hulle nie meer van die regering ontvang nie. Hoeveel van hulle het aandeel daarin? Spreker na spreker lees stotterend die leuns wat vir hulle opgedis is in sogenaamde toesprake om empatie en simpatie te wek, terwyl baie van hulle self agter die deur staan en deel in die plundering wat steeds voortduur. It is no secret, Chair, that budget cuts are evident in all departments. Taxpayers' money is moved around on the gambler's table without promises of a better life, or rather with promises of a better life. More successful projects with impressive and much needed infrastructure, assistance for upcoming farmers, very little to no relief for commercial farmers in distress, and yes, another inquiry to alleged corruption of some alien force that was not deployed, nor elected, and definitely not protected up to now. This is the familiar scene of South Africa's gamblers' table. Will the Division of Revenue Bill B3 2021 have the same fate as the bills before it? The Minister and National Treasury shovel the cards. We as parliamentarians voiced our opinion, made suggestions, tried to assist, but the dealer, National Treasury, dealt the cards and pointed us to the so-called rulebook and government ideologies. Targets they want to hit, so-called achievements they want to reach, and that with taxpayers' money. Chair, while taking part in the Section 100 ad hoc committee meeting yesterday that deals with the Northwest Province intervention, someone pointed out a very important fact that is all too often overlooked, and that is that government will fail over and over again if its mandate of ensuring a safe and secure environment where quality service delivery is a reality for all, by expecting people, listen now, who are having vested interest in political process to oversee the division of revenue, supply chain management, and consequence management. State capture is not over. It's not limited to the Zondo Commission sessions transmitted on television. It is here. It is still taking place. More and more funds are needed to feed the gambler's addiction. More people are being made dependent on government by government. Voorsitter, al die sprekers voor my en na my gaan verwys na syfers en getalle. Ek wil dit egter duidelik maak dat al word die vergroting verdriedubbel, dit steeds nie genoeg gaan wees om aan die werklike behoeftes te voldoen en die nodige herstel teweeg te bring. Deur blaamverskywing toe te pas en te verwys na sogenaamde onregte, soos lede veral gedurende hierdie verkiesingsjaar doen, regverdig nie die diefstal wat plaasvind nie. Julle is medepligtig. Chair, through you, if any member takes part in the ongoing state capture and corruption and theft, you are complicit to the atrocities that is currently taking place. If you condone these acts of malice and turn a blind eye, you are guilty of causing unemployment, hunger, famine, contributing to the violence against women and children because you contribute to creating the environment where these acts of cruelty against South Africans take place. Shame on you. Hierdie begroting kan hoe ook al verdeel en onderverdeel word, indien die laksman nie uit die spel verwyder word nie, voorsitter, sal die fondse nie korrek en effektief aangewend word. Sekere dele van die begroting word beskerm om nie vir enigiets anders aangewend te word nie, soos byvoorbeeld die munisipale infrastruktuurbegroting. Maar as die fondse nie oordeelkundig spandeer word, deur dit byvoorbeeld nie vir salarisse aan te wend nie, sal infrastruktuur nie opgebou word en die begroting nie daarby baat nie. Soveel van hierdie selfsugtige, bloeddorstige, dobbelverslaafde, korrupte politici kan my verkeerd bewys, voorsitter, as hulle net wil. In closing, Chair, Margaret Thatcher said that, open quote, the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money, close quote. En dieselfde geld vir korrupte politici. Dankie, voorsitter.
Thank you very much. We will now proceed to Honorable Muletsane. Honorable Muletsane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me apologize for the camera. I'm experiencing the issue of load shedding where I am. As the EFF, we have raised in the past our concern and disapproval of the way division of revenue is formulated. We have said this because the last 25 years have shown that the current division of revenue, the way it is structured, perpetuates racism, apartheid, and keep the majority of our people in poverty. The idea the municipalities will be able to raise money from citizens paying taxes, rates and water, and other services is extremely misguided, mischievous, and the minister knows very well. The majority of our people do not work and do not earn money, and therefore they will not be able to pay municipal services. As the EFF, we have said before in many of the debates on the division of revenue that we need to go back to drawing board. We need to start rethinking about the reallocation of resources between national, provincial, and municipal level of government. We say this because we understand that the municipalities are the one closest to the people. The majority of our people know government through municipalities. So it is the division, sorry. Sorry, Chairperson, I just missed.
Please go ahead.
The majority of our people know government through municipalities. So if the division of revenue bill continue only allocating 10% of the revenue rate to municipalities, we are saying that this means we have accepted that municipalities will remain small and non-functional in the bigger scheme. In the bigger scheme of things, municipalities will not be able to address some of the colonial apartheid spatial plans because municipalities are at the core of planning and in terms of how our history has shaped our communities. In order to change this, we need to change how municipalities work. And that starts with allocating funds properly. We see solutions that are necessary to begin with, allocation of resources. We are also saying municipalities should go out of their way to become economic hubs of their communities, not by getting money from national and distributing it through tenders. Municipalities should be engaging local producers so that communities can benefit. We must be understanding fully the lies that municipalities feed our people. They should be able to deliver basic services to people that cannot afford. We are aware that monies allocated to indigents does not reach them. This money gets redirected to salaries and corrupt activities. Transparency is needed where monies are spent. If these discrepancies are resolved, we will see a meaningful and practical division of revenue bill. The EFF rejects this division of revenue bill proposed by the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Chair.
We'll then move on to Honorable D. Bartman. Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Fellow South Africans. In the national budget as tabled on 24 February 2021, 41.5% of the nationally raised funds were allocated to provinces in general and 9% to local governments. In this regard, the Western Cape Provincial Government received 54 billion rand as its equitable share, an increase of 771 million rand, which is 1.4% from the 2020-2021 budget, and representing 10.39% of the provincial equitable share in general for the 2021-2022 financial year. This, however, is a 5 billion rand less than 2020 MTEF amount of 59 billion rand, which we were expecting. Similarly, the almost 81 billion rand expected in the 2022 year of the 2020 MTEF period has now been reduced to 71 billion rand, representing a cut of 9 billion rand. And in the outer 2023 year of the 2020 MTEF period, we were expecting 84 billion rand, but will now be receiving 72 billion rand, representing a cut of almost 12 billion rand. In total, based on the new 2021 MTEF period, the Western Cape budget is being cut by 26 billion rand. Of this 26 billion rand, 13.5 billion rand cut relates to the changes in compensation of employees' wage freeze reductions, the 2020 MTEF, which relates to the 2018 agreement. 10.2 billion rand cut relates to changes in the compensation of employees' fiscal consolidation reductions, which is the 2021 MTEF, and relates to the new agreement. And 3.2 billion rand cut relates to changes in non-compensation of employees' fiscal consolidation reduction related to the 2021 MTEF. Further, the Western Cape Provincial Government is receiving 13.5 billion rand in conditional grants, which represents... Apologies, Chairperson, I can't hear you. Chair, apologies, can you hear me? Chair, may I continue? I'm unable to hear you well. Chairperson, may I continue?
The system, just keep it as it. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The Western Cape Provincial Government received 13.5 billion rand in conditional grants, which represents 11.68% of the conditional grants allocated to the provinces. Similar to the equitable share, the National Treasury fails to illustrate next to its current figures that this represents a 45 million rand budget cut based on the 2020 MTEF period, 618 million rand budget cut based on the 2020 year of the 2020 MTEF period, and a 993 million rand budget cut of the 2023 year in terms of the 2020 MTEF period, equating a total budget cut of 1.7 billion rand over the new 2021 MTEF period related to conditional grants. And while one appreciates the increases in some conditional grants, such as the Education Infrastructure Grant of 75 million rand and Transport Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant of 151 million rand, these amounts are offset by the large reductions in the Health National Tertiary Services Grant of 288 million rand cut and Health Human Resources and Training Grant 116 million rand cut. The rest of the conditional grant amounts are either increased and decreased by marginal amounts. The net budget cuts in the end for this financial year is 45 million rand. And to date, the Western Cape is still awaiting for the 2 billion rand promise President Ramaphosa made to assist our province with our COVID-19 support. Instead of delivering upon this province, he hid a 2 billion rand away in budget cuts in our provincial budget and then called it reprioritization, when in fact he was forcing the Western Cape as well as every other province to cut their programs and fend for themselves during a global health pandemic. And in the current budget allocation, we had to bolster the 1.7 billion rand deficit with our own provincial funds. Instead, according to a parliamentary reply by Minister Tito Mboweni in August 2020, between the 2000/2001 and 2019/2020 financial years, the national government has spent 187.4 billion rand on recapitalizing and bailing out SOEs, which excludes indemnities, guarantees, and other contingent support provided to SOEs. Eskom has received 133 million rand in bailouts since 2008 and is expected to receive another 112 billion rand over the MTEF period. In May this year, Eskom revealed that they would need 1 billion rand from national government every week in 2021 to remain operational, translating to approximately 6 million rand an hour. If these funds were given to provinces, then we would not be in the position that we are currently. In the second adjustment budget previously for the 2020-2021 financial year, 2.3 billion rand was cut from the Western Cape's budget, in large part due to the 10 billion rand bailout of SAA, which had been announced by Minister Mboweni in November 2020. Further, when reviewing the provincial equitable share for the Western Cape, several issues arise which need to be taken into consideration regarding the proposed allocation for the province. Firstly, the equitable share formula does not take into account the holistic provision needed for individuals moving towards economic centers such as the Western Cape and Gauteng provinces. Components of the PES are used to measure the demand for government services within a province, which included the largest provincial competencies such as health and education. However, there's a delay in the reporting of the population increases since the population figures for the previous year are used for the population variable in the PES formula. Therefore, the outdated data used to calculate the PES results in insufficient funds to deliver services and address the needs of residents in the Western Cape. The retrospective nature of the calculation does not allow for the need to deliver services immediately to our residents. And furthermore, the cumulative effect of the cost of living adjustment is not accounted for in the formula, which have largely negated the population adjustments that have been incorporated. Despite this, there is a glimmer of hope. The Western Cape has allocated 2 billion rand of our funding to COVID-19 response for this financial year, including 832 million rand for COVID-19 support, 300 million rand for vaccination programs, and an extra 800 million rand as reserve for the COVID-19 response. We will be allocating further 319 million rand to testing artificial intelligence and machine-based learning in our systems, with the pilot starting with Provincial Treasury. This bold initiative could see the Western Cape province become the first to utilize such procurement and finance systems, which would support an even more agile and effective fiscal system, and which would support anti-corruption efforts. And yesterday, the Western Cape Provincial Treasury published the first annual procurement disclosure report in South Africa. To date, 2 billion rand has been committed to the COVID-19 expenditure across departments and public entities in the Western Cape. Of this, 67.32% was spent on small, medium, and micro enterprises, exceeding the national target of 30%. 63.59% was spent on suppliers who were situated in the Western Cape, and 60.91% of the expenditure was spent on BBBEE suppliers. Finally, the Auditor General's report indicated that 75% of departments and entities in the Western Cape government received a clean audit, and only 20% received unqualified with no findings, meaning essentially that in total 95% of the Western Cape government was found to have sufficient internal controls to stop irregular, unauthorized, and wasteful expenditure. This is evidence of the financial accountability residents of the Western Cape can expect in DA-run governments. We spend the people's money on the people, for the people. And for this, the Western Cape cannot support this bill. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is going to be Honorable Makaringe. Honorable Makaringe. We will move on to Honorable Makaringe. If he's not available for whatever reason, we'll move on to Honorable William Mvoko. Honorable Mvoko. Let's try again. Makaringe.
Chairperson, it looks like Honorable Makaringe is connected, but Honorable Mvoko doesn't seem to be in the house. Yes.
Honorable Chair.
Yes, Makaringe.
Yes, Makaringe.
Please.
I think as Mpumalanga, we submitted our comments and we are covered about all what has been said.
Okay. No, thank you very much. And that Makaringe will move on to Mvoko. If Mvoko is not connected, I will then call on Honorable Ngwezi, but as I do so, request Honorable Ngwenya to take over the chairing. Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP. And may you please allow me to read my speech without a video because of the network issues. Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, the Division of Revenue Bill facilitates the realization of the National Development Plan to reduce poverty and inequality by growing an inclusive economy, building capabilities and promoting leadership and partnerships throughout the society. This bill is also important in ensuring that provinces, local government and municipalities continue to effectively address the impact of COVID-19. Although necessary, budget cuts bring concerns over capacity for reaching the development agenda, given the bill's importance. The total national appropriation was reduced by 2.3 billion provincial equitable share, and conditional grants were adjusted downwards by 50.3 billion and 2.2 billion. In Johannesburg alone, there were over 55,000 pipe bursts across the city for the period of 2020-2021. And Johannesburg Water reported having an infrastructure renewal backlog of over 19 billion. This example shows that there are challenges to citizens' access to basic services, such as water and sanitation, yet total transfers to the local government declined by 2%. The budget cuts limits our nation's capacity to reach developmental goals and infringe on human rights, such as the right to water. Apart from the concerns relating to water infrastructure and sanitation, crime statistics in the fourth quarter of 2020-2021 period, and which is January to March 2021, showed an 8.4% increase in murder cases, while robbery at residence premises increased by 7.6%. At Umlazi station in KZN province, reported the highest conduct crimes within the same period. Therefore, the budget cut to visibly policing of 4 billion rand has implications on the right to life and the law enforcement's mandates to protect that right. Essentially, the vehicle through which the public is protected from the increasing crime rates is decapacitated, and the consequences, especially on vulnerable groups, which are women and children, are unthinkable. Furthermore, corruption has been identified by the nation's presidency as one of the leading challenges to the performance of the state entities. Yet the National Treasury's budget cut for corruption-busting entities tells a different story. The Priority Crime Investigation Unit, which is the whole budget for 2020-2021, was reduced by a budget just over 2 billion rand, meaning that the capacity to prove allegations of corruption will be reduced. And this opposes the objective of addressing corruption, which is a pandemic on its own. The overall revenue bill encourages all three spheres of government to work with various stakeholders to improve an enabling environment for faster and more inclusive economic growth. But mechanisms that guard against economic regression are underfunded. Also, provincial governments that should implement growth initiatives have their capacities reduced by the budget cuts. As a party that prioritizes change, we can deliver together. The Minister of Finance should consider the implications of budget cuts for law enforcement, especially considering increased conduct crime rates in Umlazi, lapha ezweni laKwaZulu kweleNgonyama. Our nation, our children, and our people entrust their right to life and protection with our police services. In keeping with the above concerns, inkatha iyaseseka isiphakamiso lesi sikaNgqongqoshe odabeni oluthinta izimali. We support the budget, Honorable House Chairperson of the NCOP, Datu Mason. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Honorable Ngwenya.
Honorable Okam. The next speaker is Honorable Okam, DA.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Chair, this House of Parliament has got a clear and specific task and duty which is supposed to be well known to all of us. In short, we are here to represent the best interest of our various provinces. But is that what we really do? I am of the opinion that we are continuously failing to honor our mandate. This House is becoming a repeat offender when it comes to not listening to the pleas of the various provinces that we represent. Let each member of this House ask him or herself, why do we have all our committee meetings? Why do we engage in public participation? Why do we give presentations to and get inputs from our respective provinces and SALGA? Why? To do nothing about it? Again, as so many times in the past, we are not listening to the desperate pleas of our provinces because once again, this House acts as a rubber stamp for what the executive presents. During the workshop that we had a few weeks ago, it was emphasized that the executive tables the budget, but that does not mean that we must approve it as it was tabled to us. Honourable House Chair, it is extremely alarming that the inputs that provinces made during this process are to no avail. For several years, various provinces, including the Northern Cape, whom I represent, asked for a review of the provincial equitable share formula. This must be done in order for it to better accommodate provinces with vast rural areas, yet Treasury is dragging its feet with this. Nobody in this House will disagree with me when I say that some of these pleas from our provinces are done with merit and are justifiable. Surely they are. It cannot be that a blanket approach is applied when there are such huge differences between the rural nature of provinces such as the Northern or Eastern Cape when you compare it to that of Gauteng. In this regard, it is also important to note that the highly reputable FFC, or the Financial and Fiscal Commission, submitted to the Select Committee that there were overwhelming concerns that the provincial equitable share formula was not responsive to the unique needs of the various provinces. Honourable House Chair, another example of how this bill is ignoring the pleas of our provinces is the fact that in the past, and again during the deliberations on this bill, various provinces emphasized the urgent need for money to be made available in order to assist farmers that are still battling with the crippling effects of this prolonged drought. That the executive is completely out of touch with the reality on the ground when it wants us to approve a total amount of a mere 140 million rands towards provincial disaster relief. This is not only for disasters such as drought, it is for any disaster that might occur in any of the provinces. To put this into perspective, I can again refer you to the Northern Cape province, where 2 years ago already, the amount required for drought relief was in excess of 600 million rand for the year. The meager amount of 140 million rand that is now made available to all 9 provinces combined is therefore a slap in the face of our farmers and our provinces that desperately needs assistance. And if this House approves this insufficient amount, we are as out of touch with reality as the executive that proposed it. Honourable House Chair, on numerous occasions in the past, the Democratic Alliance warned that the endemic corruption within failing state-owned enterprises such as Eskom, the NEL, South African Airways, and the SABC, to name but a few, as well as the continuous provision of government bailouts to these mismanaged and failing state-owned enterprises, will have a huge negative effect on the delivery of services to our people. It is now an undeniable fact that that is exactly what is currently happening. COVID-19 is not the only or the biggest culprit to blame for the cuts that provinces and municipalities are facing. These cuts would not have been necessary if this ANC government didn't continuously bail out these mismanaged state-owned enterprises. Honourable House Chair, it is the ANC government that allowed for state capture to take place. It is the ANC government that allowed for corruption to be running wild on all spheres of government. It is the ANC government that allowed for the devastating practices of cadre deployment. It is the ANC government that drove our economy into junk status. All of this was at the expense of the people of South Africa that are entitled to proper delivery of services. And that is now being taken away from them due to these mismanagements. The way in which the ANC government mismanaged our country is a horror story, which nobody wants to tell to their children. This was confirmed to me yesterday evening when I watched on the 7 o'clock news bulletin how former President Thabo Mbeki admitted this weekend at the ANC's Eastern Cape Provincial Executive Meeting that he did not even campaign for the ANC in all the elections since 2009. He said that he did not want to ask people to vote for the ANC due to the fact that the ANC lied to the people of South Africa when the ANC said that it had a good story to tell. Indeed, the story of the various ANC governments is not a good one to tell, and I can't blame the Honorable President Mbeki for not wanting to tell that to people. This horror story, Honorable House Chair, was further given truth to it when Kusatu, during their presentation to the Select Committee on this bill, referred to municipalities, and I quote, as dysfunctional, a dysfunctional arm of state. Again, to call municipalities a dysfunctional arm of state might even be an understatement. This is a direct repercussion of cadre deployment, corruption, and mismanagement by this ANC government. Honorable Chairperson, when we look at all the inputs by all the various provinces, and one look at the continuous way in which some of those valid requests are being brushed aside year after year, we as the NCOP, as well as our provincial legislatures, have to ask ourselves if we will again just be a rubber stamp for the executive, or are we going to fulfill our duties and honor our obligations to hold the executive to account? I thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Member. The next speaker is Honorable Mkiva, African National Congress. Honorable Mkiva.
Yeah, good morning, Chairperson. Mabungwenya, House Chair. The Chairperson of the NCOP, the Deputy Chairperson, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Tourism, as well as the Deputy Ministers, honorable members, permanent delegates, and special delegates, I greet you this morning. This month of June, Inyanga Yeslimela ngolwimi lesiXhosa, is a very important month in the tradition of amaXhosa, one of our cultural communities in this country. It is a month in which boy children go through their rites of passage to become young men. As we continue to celebrate our heritage, I wish just to quote from a poem by S.E.K. Mkai, known as Imbongi Yesizwe, dedicated to the month of June, the Youth Month. Asilimela. Nina base Britani, tatani kwezi. Niyokubumbana namajamani namaphu. Noko ni bantu bangakwaziyo ukwabelana. Nisuke nenza imfazwe yamabhulu neyamajamani. Siza kunibamba ngesilimela thina mabandla kaPhala. Yona nkwenkwezi inkulu kuba inkwenkwezi yokubala iminyaka. Yokubala iminyaka yobudoda. Yokubala iminyaka yasebudodeni. Iminyaka yobudoda. To translate for the benefit of the compatriots who do not understand isiXhosa, the poet was saying that you from Britain takes Venus and share it with the Germans and the Boers. You whites who do not know how to share anything, learn to share it with the Boers and the Germans. We will hold on to the June star, we the people of Phala. That group of 7 stars, it is the star by which we count our years. We count the years of being a man. We count the years of manhood. I am quoting this poem because the ad hoc committee on the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution that was appointed to make it possible for our government to expropriate land without compensation concludes its business today. Such a legislative exercise has become necessary because a group of people whose forebears took the land of indigenous Africans by force in the wars of dispossession and resistance do not want to share this land, which the Freedom Charter calls the heritage of all South Africans. S.E.K. Mkai says, please learn to share that which you never created, the stars. Even though we know that you do not have a philosophy or a history of sharing, I want to say to the descendants of colonialists today, please learn to share that which you have never created, the land, our land as natives. But even if you do not want to, the majority of us here in this house, with the support of the overwhelming majority of our people, will drive the land reform program, including through legal expropriation without compensation, using the amendment of Section 25, as well as enabling legislation. Honorable House Chair, we have been given a short term of 5 years with a clear mandate to change the lives of our people. The mandate entails, amongst others, paying serious attention to the state of local government as it is in the cold face of service delivery. Many initiatives, including by this House, have been taken with varying degrees of success. In considering the division of the revenue bill, the committee has welcomed the involvement of SALGA in planning and preparing for the local government budget and the improved working relations between SALGA and National Treasury. We are of the view, however, that this improved working relationship should translate into a positive impact of submissions made by SALGA on the division of revenue and responses aimed to address the challenges facing local government financing, such as the issue of local government funding not matching the functions of local government that SALGA has been raising continuously. National Treasury and provincial treasuries, together with the Department of Cooperative Governance and SALGA, should look into this matter quite very seriously. SALGA, together with the National Department of Cooperative Governance, National Treasury and Provincial Treasury, need to ensure that governance and accountability of structures, financial management system, and internal controls, including well-capacitated internal auditors and independent audit committees, are functional. Furthermore, they must ensure that the work of the municipal public accounts committees is strengthened and legislated. This will ensure that both direct transfers and indirect transfers to local government are effectively spent and value for money is achieved. The committee further recommended that the members of the traditional councils should be trained and be capacitated in order to assist municipalities to deal with service delivery issues and achieve much needed basic service delivery, employment creation, local economic growth, and eradication of poverty and inequality, especially in rural municipalities. During the public hearings on the bill, SALGA submitted that in order to address the growing infrastructure backlogs in local government caused by the migration to cities, capacity building mechanisms were needed, as poorly capacitated municipalities underperformed in capital expenditure. This has resulted in conditional grants being taken away, as in the case of the public transport network grant. Therefore, SALGA recommended that the following step be taken. The creation of effective capacity to support municipalities to root out and prevent corruption, particularly in this period of the pandemic. A mechanism to support municipalities to build technical, managerial, and leadership capacity in new normal. SALGA must be involved in the study of consolidating capacity building initiatives undertaken by National Treasury. The Municipality Systems Improvement Grant must be disaggregated to show the cost of regulatory compliance, for example, to the Municipal Standard Chart of Accounts, which is costly to municipalities. And the grant to implement the district development model study must be monitored in the 21 identified districts to form future allocations to the next batch of districts of intermediary cities to form part of the DDM. Chairperson, once again, during the public hearings on the bill, COSATU, the leading federation of organized working class, submitted the bill that was silent on the following key areas of the budget allocation. An assessment of the potential negative impact of the proposed cuts and the deferred implementation, ensuring that it would result in a snowball effect of worsening infrastructure and service delivery deficits. The near collapse of the Amatole District Municipality that had threatened not to pay workers for 5 months. They also raised the question of the time frame for government to eradicate mud schools as well as sanitation and infrastructure backlog. The Department of Basic Education has repeatedly postponed these matters for more than 15 years. Recommendations to National Treasury are as follows. The commitment by the Finance Minister to deal with the almost 40 billion owed to ESCOM by municipalities and provinces, which threatened to collapse ESCOM, remains a matter of serious concern. Similarly, the reasons for underspending in various municipalities and provinces and action being undertaken to address the negative impact thereof need to be investigated as part of our oversight. We also need interventions to address the failure to pay suppliers within 30 days, which is the national government policy, and have a way forward on the interventions in provinces, such as Section 100 intervention in the Northwest provincial government. The committee requests National Treasury to consider and provide a response to the above issues within a reasonable period after the adoption of this report. As the chairperson has said, the committee urges both parties involved in the public service wage negotiation to respect the rules of engagement within the bargaining council and make every effort to find an amicable solution without service delivery to the poor and vulnerable being interrupted. In this month of Isilimela, this month of the youth, I wish to call all of us to work together tirelessly in a youthful spirit for the reconstruction and recovery of our economy, improved service delivery, particularly in the poor and rural masses, and focus on better management of our fiscal resources and fighting wastage, leakages, and corruption. We only have one country. Let us make sure that we leave it for our children and future generations in a better condition than one we were born into. Chairperson, I want to say to the likes of Mr. Ryder Ocampo that they must not be ignorant to the history of this country, because they speak as though that they live in an ivory tower and they do not see the reality out there. So every time we come to this point of the division of revenue, they always speak as if they are not the citizens of this country. They are pointing figures at the Treasury, and they are saying the National Treasury is arrogant. This Department of the National Treasury, the Department of the National Treasury is one of the institutions of state that is democratic and that takes the views of our people into account when they make these interventions. Thank you so much, Chairperson. We support this division. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. The next speaker is Honorable Mboweni, Minister of Finance.
Honorable Chairperson of the day, honorable members, both the permanent members of the NCOP and also the representatives from the provinces. Leaders of the ANC in the House and leaders of all other parties in the House. It is my singular honor and privilege to express my deepest thanks and appreciation to the honorable members who have participated in the committee system, shaping the report that has been tabled before us this morning here in the NCOP, a report which has benefited tremendously from the inputs of members of the public, those who were able to make submissions, and also the debates amongst the members of the committee. It took us many years to fight for the right to speak in these chambers. It was not an easy struggle, but a struggle which left many dead and maimed, many suffering, jailed and detained and tortured. And therefore, we do not take lightly the opportunity to participate in this democratic platform. It was not easy, honorable member Oakham, for us to arrive at this point. For many years, Black people were excluded from this forum. They were not allowed to be here. And as we fought the struggle for liberation, we came on one hand holding a bunch of flowers to extend to those of our white compatriots who were part of the oppressive nature of the apartheid system. On the other hand, of course, we held the gun to fight against those who were resisting change. It is such a pity, Honorable Chair, that today, as we have been trying to extend a hand of friendship and a bunch of lovely flowers to the majority of the white population in our country, we seem not to receive the gesture of reconciliation and working together. We seem to be in a situation where those of our white compatriots who have never loved Africans in particular see the government of the day, which is dominated by the African National Congress, as representing that which they've always disliked, the majority of Black people. It's very sad and a reality that everything that we do, no matter how hard we work, there are those amongst our white compatriots who never appreciate anything we do. Quite sad and saddening. I wish the day will come when we'll all pull together as Black and white South Africans to develop our country, to go forward, and not always to be nitpicking, because we never trust anything that African people can do can be correct. That's wrong. Here today, Chairperson, we have debated the division of revenue bill. I very much appreciate the inputs that you have made, although I remain very disturbed but by what seems to be a gap that's never filled between those in the DA and those in the African National Congress, because those in the DA are unwilling to cross the Rubicon with us. They are unwilling to move forward. For them, they will always be stuck in one place. I wish they could state unequivocally here today that they do not support the petition that's being mobilized in the Western Cape for cessation of the Western Cape. They must say so quite clearly and obviously that they do not support that petition. and that they will continue to strive for a united South Africa inhabited by Black and white patriots, by men and women who love this country. In this division of revenue bill, we seek to share the central revenue that we collect amongst the three spheres of government: the national government, the provincial government, and local government, and urge all South Africans to work with us in ensuring that every cent allocated for a purpose achieves the purpose so intended. Chairperson, I thank all members of this House for their contributions. I very much appreciate your work and appreciate your guidance, Chairperson, during the course of the debate today. Thank you very much. Kadimambo ya Kensa Shnen. You can see.
Honorable Minister. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Honorable Minister, honorable members. I'll now put the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to, and we shall now proceed to the voting on the bill. But before we proceed to voting, I shall now allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration to vote in terms of Rule 71. If they so wish, maximum is 3, minimum per declaration. Honorable members, we shall now proceed to the voting on the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to.
You are muted, Honorable House Chair.
I'm not. It's open. I can see the two hands of Comrade Modise. I see the two hands, and I don't know why they raise their hands.
As Chairperson is for declarations.
Thanks very much, Advocate. Honorable Lachberg, Leiberg.
Ms. Liebenberg.
Legenberg, are you doing the declaration?
No, ma'am. I thought that we will be given a chance to just make our input also, and it is sad to see that we are being labelled as non-assisting throughout the processes.
Order, Honorable Person. Order here. Order. Can we proceed with the declarations from the provinces? Order.
Who's the chair? Honorable Ngwenya?
Madam Speaker, can I go ahead, Madam Speaker?
Honourable Member.
Madam Speaker, I thought that we are attending the NCOP to give inputs, and I would like to voice my input.
Can I be allowed for order, Chair?
No, I was on declaration, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Chair.
Madam Speaker, the provinces were not giving a chance to voice their opinions.
No, don't be out of
on declaration, Honourable Member.
Chairperson, on a point of order, it is only the leaders of delegations that can make their declarations or vote in this way.
Agreed, Honorable Dango.
Oral member, is it any member wanted to make the declaration?
No. Honorable House Chairperson, provinces are now allowed to do declarations of vote for 3 minutes. If there is no one of the provinces of the leaders of delegation that are making a declaration of vote, you proceed to the voting. I'm just, okay.
Thanks for the clarity, Deputy Chair. Is it any member who wanted to make the declaration? And if there's no member who want to make the declaration, I would like to continue with the provinces to cast their vote when called upon head of the delegation must indicate whether they vote or in favor, against, or abstain. Can I continue, Honorable Member?
Yes, call the provinces.
Okay, I'll start to call provinces by calling Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape support the vote, Chair.
Thank you. Free State.
Free State is in support, Honorable House Chair.
Gauteng.
Gauteng is in support, Honorable House Chair.
KwaZulu Natal.
KwaZulu Natal iyayeseka Sihlangu report.
Limpopo.
Limpopo support the vote.
Northern Cape. Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga support the vote.
Thank you. Northern Cape.
Northern Cape support the vote, Honorable Chair.
Northwest. Northwest.
Missing in action.
Western Cape.
Western Cape against.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The voting now is closed. The number of the provinces that have voted, there are 8. Then against 1.
Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, on a point of
I
order.
therefore declare the bill agreed to in according with the section 65 of the Constitution.
Honorable Chair, on a point of order.
Yes, Honorable Bishop.
You said 8 provinces for. It can't be if Northwest is not on the platform.
No, she said the 8 provinces voted.
8 voted.
Yes.
I said 8 provinces voted and 1 against.
Okay, sorry for that.
Okay, ma'am.
Need to order, please.
Thank you, honorable members. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in accordance with the section 65 of the Constitution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Honorable members, thanks very much. We shall now proceed to the section order of the day. But I need a clarity here. I'm not sure. Can the table assist me? On vote number 38, that is it coming now or we break? I don't know. I need an advice, please.
Advocate, can you advise?
As Chairperson, we're proceeding with vote 38. We will take a break after vote 38.
Thanks very much, Advocate. Honorable Delegate, we shall now proceed to the second order of the day, policy debate on budget vote number 38, tourism appropriation bill B4 2021, National Assembly Section 77. I now call the Honorable Kupai, Minister of Tourism, to open the debate. Honorable Kupai.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Let me acknowledge the Deputy Minister of Tourism in absentia, who's not well today, who will not be able to join the debate. Acknowledge the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Trade and Industry, Economic Development, Small Business Development, Tourism, Employment and Labor, Honorable Khai, members of the NCOP, Chairperson and members of the South African Tourism Board who are following the debate, Director General, Acting CEO of South African Tourism, senior managers both in the department and SAT, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members. While the full impact of the COVID-19 crisis on tourism is yet to be determined, what is clear is that some of the scars to the tourism sector will be permanent. Projections have shown that full recovery of the sector can only be expected after 2023. Until then, the sector will remain in survival mode, with many tourism jobs and businesses being at risk. Globally, destinations are also trying to tackle the challenge of reigniting their tourism economies. It is for this reason, honorable members, that our focus for this financial year as the Department of Tourism will be on the tourism sector recovery. Our work will form part of the broader economic reconstruction and recovery as elaborated in the country's economic reconstruction and recovery plan. The department, working together with the private sector and other stakeholders, developed a tourism sector recovery plan, which is TSRP, in short, in alignment to the ERRP. The tourism sector recovery plan is anchored on 3 interlinked pillars or strategic themes, i.e., protecting and rejuvenating supply, reigniting demand, and strengthening enabling capabilities for long-term sustainability. Honorable members, under each theme, the plan outlines a set of action timelines of implementation of each action and the allocation of each action to an implementing agent. The main focus of our program in this financial year will be the implementation of the tourism sector recovery plan. Our budget allocation for this financial year, honorable members, our budget allocation for this financial year in the respective programs and projects within the department and the entity was designed in line with the tourism sector recovery plan. For the financial year 2021-2022, the department's budget allocation amounts to about 2.4 billion, of which 1.2 billion is for transfers to SAT. We will make every effort to ensure that we deploy these resources efficiently so that we can get more for less. Ladies and gentlemen, Destination Development Program will be the main driver in the implementation of the protection and rejuvenation supply pillar of the sector recovery plan. This will consist in supporting the protection of core tourism infrastructure and assets. To effect the implementation of these projects, the department entered into a partnership agreement with the Development Bank of South Africa in November 2020 to implement and manage the delivery of its infrastructure projects, including procurement processes. In the next 3 years, we will transfer 537 million rands, which will be spent on these infrastructure projects to the DBSA for the implementation. First tranche of 270 million of the funds has been transferred during the 2020-2021 financial budget. Second tranche of almost around 222 of the funds to be transferred during from the 2021-2022 financial year budget. We have prioritized the implementation of just over 100 tourism infrastructure initiatives across the 9 provinces. This work, together with the skills development, is likely funded through our Working for Tourism Expanded Public Works program. We'll continue to enhance our visitor experience while seeking to advance broader ownership, especially by communities with a focus largely of villages, townships, and small dorpies. 30 community-based town tourism projects will be implemented across various provinces. The objective of this work is to stimulate tourism growth and economic opportunities in these areas. We will hand over compliance certificates to community projects, for community projects that have been completed. And this includes the Luhuritsi bird and trophy hunting owned by the Bakhatlaba Lungkwa Trust in the Northwest Province. We will also hand over a project, Isibubu project owned by King Goodwill Cultural Development Trust in KwaZulu-Natal. The Muzi Pen project owned by KwaJobe Community Trust in KwaZulu-Natal. Work is also underway on maintenance and beautification of provincial state-owned attractions. The focus of this work is on improving and upgrading experiences at key tourism sites, such as at the World Heritage Sites, National Heritage Sites, national parks, botanical gardens, rural and township precincts. A first step in the process will therefore need to be detailed maintenance assessment. We will also focus on product enhancements at local community museum, which will include the Anton Limbede Museum in eThekwini Municipality in KwaZulu-Natal, McGregor Museum in the Northern Cape, Abahlubi Cultural Heritage in KwaZulu-Natal, Solplaki Museum in the Northwest Province, and the Huritsi Liberation Heritage Museum, which is also in the Northwest Province. We are also implementing infrastructure projects in the Indo-Atlantic route as part of our coastal and marine tourism initiatives. This includes the architectural designs and construction for Orange River Mouth in the Northern Cape, Hole in the Wall in the Eastern Cape, Harold Johnson Nature Reserve in KwaZulu-Natal. On transformation, honorable members, you would note that yesterday we have announced our intention to defend the court challenge regarding the constitutionality of the criteria that is used for the processing application for the Tourism Equity Fund. AfriForum and Solidarity have made a court application challenging the legality and rationality of the 51% Black owner managed qualification criteria for the fund. The court has already interdicted the process of application until the case is concluded. This has dealt a serious blow to the previously disadvantaged entrepreneurs who are now at the risk of losing potential deals due to this delay. Though we are fighting, and we do believe that we will have this court on our side because this is a just fight and a just cause to fight. We are, in terms of this Tourism Equity Fund, intending to provide a combination of grant funding, concessionary loans, and debt finance to support equity acquisitions and new and expansion developments in the tourism sector. TF has brought hope to entrepreneurs who have been yearning to participate meaningfully in the tourism sector. TF, together with a restructured Tourism Transformation Fund, will continue to form part of the tools through which we wish to transform the tourism sector, which we believe is long overdue. Honorable members, we will intensify our marketing effort to ignite demand, especially for domestic travel, which will be the anchor for the sector in the short to medium term. In this work, collaboration with provinces remain priority so that we can align, coordinate, and remove duplication of efforts and resources in our quest to propel the sector recovery, especially on domestic tourism. We'll continue our efforts in terms of marketing internationally so that we remain and defend our markets in those where we operate and also gain traction in those where we are not currently operating. Again, honorable member, in terms of working around the marketing, we did indicate that our cabinet took a decision to consolidate our marketing agencies so that we can utilize our resources more efficiently and to have one through which we send our brand message to the world. This process is underway and the relevant departments are seized with the implementation of this process. We have taken steps to ensure that during this process, the work of SAT is not interrupted. In this respect, we have extended the term of office of the current board with another 12 months to oversee the merger and the transition period. Honorable members would note that last year, we appointed a 7-member advisory panel comprising of experts with diverse knowledge in the sector and the economy to review all our existing policies, provide guidance to the minister on the new policy proposals. As part of its work, the panel will bring into sharp focus transformation, travel facilitation, and regulatory barriers, tourism safety, quality assurance, tourist guiding, tour operators and travel agencies, technology development, product or infrastructure development, and conference bidding and support. Other focus areas include knowledge management, best practice, responsible tourism, and sustainable tourism. Our objectives, honorable members, is to have a new policy framework that is comprehensive to guide the sector and be more responsive to the needs of the 21st century. The panel is scheduled to complete the work by August this year, and they will hand over the report to the minister to take the process forward with the department. Honorable members, COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the social and economic challenges that find expression in the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. We have a responsibility to ensure that economic activities that can help alleviate communities from these challenges are implemented and supported in communities, especially rural communities. Tourism economy can play a huge role in this effort. We also have a responsibility to strive for the creation of an inclusive and non-racial society. The kind of society we strive to create was captured in the words of Chief Albert Luthuli on his Nobel acceptance speech as far back as 11 December 1961, when he said, I quote, "Our vision has always been that of a non-racial democratic South Africa, which upholds the rights of all who live in our country to remain there as full citizens with equal rights and responsibilities with all others. For the consummation of this ideal, we have labored unflinchingly. We shall continue to labor unflinchingly," unquote. I hereby, honorable members, table the budget vote number 38 from the Department of Tourism, together with priorities for financial year 2021 and 2022 in rebuilding the tourism sector to recovery, but not only to recover into the pre-COVID, but to a more inclusive tourism recovery and tourism sector that all that belongs to this country can feel and belong to it. I thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Minister. I'll now call Honorable M.I. High, Chairperson Select Committee, Trade and Industry Economic Development, Small Business Development, Tourism Employment, and Labor. Over to you, Honorable High.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, Honorable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy Chairperson, Chief Whip, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Deputy Minister. On behalf of the committee, I would like to wish Honorable Deputy Minister a speedy recovery. Honorable House Chairperson, we need to think deeper about the role of the tourism industry in driving inclusive economic growth, particularly under the current COVID-19 landscape. McKinsey Global Institute indicate that it will take some time for tourism demand to return to 2019 levels, which means that overcapacity will be the new normal in the medium term. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development survey of small enterprises in the tourism sector suggested more than half of SMMEs, if the pandemic continues without major control, would not survive. Many reports from World International Monetary Fund, United Nations World Tourism Organization, the South African Reserve Bank, and the National Treasury have revealed that COVID-19 pandemic has affected hard the tourism industry. Many jobs have been lost and many businesses will face liquidation. The COVID-19 pandemic has ravaged international tourism economy. It is reported by global institutions such as World Travel and Tourism Council that the long-term recovery of tourism industry depends on how long it takes to roll out the COVID-19 vaccine globally to achieve effective immunity, so travel restriction can be lifted and borders opened. This is likely to happen first in China, followed by the advanced countries and the middle income or emerging market economies. We are happy to see that government remains committed to accelerate the implementation of COVID-19 vaccine program. The COVID-19 vaccine program, House Chairperson, should succeed. Let's perform according to expectation. In the short term, existing health and safety protocols and COVID testing should be observed. Further digital solutions are regarded as one of the contributors to safer traveling and reducing demand for traveling, which has a transmission effect to the tourism industry. As Chairperson, the outlook for tourism industry remains highly uncertain. Here at home, our eyes and efforts by the government led by the Department of Health are on the anticipated third wave. This further put risk to an already vulnerable industry. As Chairperson, we are thinking about jobs, the survival of businesses, the impact on households, the level of poverty in rural areas. We recommend the government, in particular the Department of Tourism, in partnership with the role players, including Tourism South Africa, which is the entity of the department, in developing tourism sector recovery plan. The tourism sector recovery plan is aligned to the country's economic reconstruction and recovery plan. We appreciate government's efforts in developing the policy strategy and action plans in a bid to reset tourism industry to continue contributing to the government efforts to drive an inclusive agenda. We are convinced that government plans have elevated the tourism industry as one of the highest policy priorities set to realize the national development and now the economic reconstruction and recovery plan policy objectives. The tourism sector recovery plan has put correctly an emphasis on protecting and rejuvenating supply, reigniting demand, and strengthening enable capability for long-term sustainability. Efforts to boost tourism infrastructure investment and maintenance of existing tourism assets is a step in the right direction in order to successfully implement tourism recovery plan. Coordinated efforts in deploying resources across all spheres of government, including across government departments and development agencies, will benefit greatly the tourism industry. We're encouraged to hear that multi-governance approaches have been established to cement collaborative initiatives with other departments such as cooperative government and traditional affairs, South African police services, environment affairs, public works and infrastructure, transport, human settlement, water and sanitation, energy and mineral resources, with a primary aim to improve coordination of infrastructure investment in energy, transport, roads, water and sanitation, ICT, to boost tourism industry across the country. Investment in rural towns, including poor towns, are also prioritized. We know, as Chairperson, that the expenditure plan of department has set aside infrastructure funds to revamp and modernize government tourism-related infrastructure assets. And some of these initiatives are carried with the support of provincial and local government. Further collaborative initiatives are being implemented, partnering with the Department of Environmental Affairs, focusing on sustainable tourism. The department has designed intervention plans supported by DBSA to strengthen infrastructure delivery. This to build internal capacity to manage planning, management, and delivery of tourism infrastructure. As Chairperson, as much the COVID pandemic has ravaged the economy and added social strain to the lives of the people, it has created opportunities for all to work more innovatively and boosted solidarity. Resources and expertise in government are shared to achieve a common goal. Government is more focused on creating a more resilient infrastructure. Over the medium term, the Department of Tourism is expected to spend 7.4 billion rands to drive tourism as one of the government's strategic policy priorities. Of this amount, South African tourism anticipated to spend 3.9 billion rands to market South Africa as a tourism destination of choice. Further efforts to protecting jobs and businesses are prioritized. A tourism equity fund currently funded in the medium term of 1.2 billion rands, apart from the deceptive narrative advanced by mainstream media and other anti-progress forces, seeks to drive transformation and further boost growth and expansion of tourism industry. Honorable House Chairperson, as we know, tourism is a concurrent function. As such, all three spheres of government are working towards deploying resources in much more coordinated manner to drive growth and expansion of tourism industry. Over the medium term, the department has reiterated its commitment to work in a collaborative manner with local and provincial governments to ensure that tourism sector recovery plan, including tourism development master plan, find expression in the provincial and local government spending plans to support implementation of the government district development model. Government has adopted a plan that is aligned with other global countries to address the following key priorities: promoting domestic tourism and supporting safe return of international tourism, supporting tourism business to adapt and survive, restoring traveler confidence, providing clear information to travelers and businesses, and limiting uncertainty to the extent possible. Evolving response measures to maintain capacity in the sector and address gaps in support, strengthening cooperation within and between countries, and building more resilient, sustainable tourism. The 2021 expenditure plan of the department attempts to address these tourism-related key policy priorities. These policy priorities are articulated in the tourism sector recovery plan. Honorable House Chairperson, we should note that without adequate financial and non-financial support deployed to reset the tourism industry, the recovery strategy and action plan will not succeed. South Africa is one of the countries that has been lauded to have done relatively well, taking into account its resources and pressing socio-economic conditions in responding to the impact of COVID-19. The damage caused by the COVID-19 is so severe to the tourism industry, more than many other industries. However, government has taken steps to cushion the blow to tourism to minimize
Honorable Member,
and to build recovery in 2021 and beyond. The department has, through the 200 million rands tourism relief fund, supported 4,000 and each receive an amount of 50,000, and further many businesses benefited on this. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, we also support the ministry in its call for a policy review to look into introducing two-tier pricing system for local and international visitors. Many establishments have priced themselves out of the local market. We condemn the attempts by AfriForum and Solidarity, the two right-wing organizations supported by the Freedom Front Plus, for their attempts to stop the transformation of tourism industry and preserving white privilege using their courts. The Minister and Deputy Minister must have courage to continue pushing ahead with the transformation agenda, regardless of the right-wing attacks. I thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I would like to invite my co-chair, Honorable Nyambi, to take over. Before he come in, Honorable Bishop, you are the next speaker. Honorable Nyambi, you take over after that.
Honourable Minister, Honourable House Chair, allow me to also extend our well wishes to the Deputy Minister and wish him a speedy recovery. Honourable Minister, 300,000 jobs lost in the tourism industry is a huge knock for the country, as tourism is a major contributor to the GDP. We are all aware that COVID-19 was one of the catalysts that impacted on this industry. But unfortunately, Minister, your unthinkable policies, like the Tourism Equity Fund, played the major role in breaking the camel's back. How, Minister, did you think that by using this pandemic to promote Black economic empowerment, it would ensure that tourism remains the main role player in contributing to the GDP? Your criteria used to determine who will qualify is so absurd that if it was not something to cry about, I would definitely be laughing. Minister, in a time of a crisis where citizens should stand together against this common enemy, namely COVID-19, you decided that assistance to struggling tourism businesses would only be driven on a race basis. You even went so far as to have weekly meetings to determine which BEE business would benefit from this fund. Despicable, and shame on you, Minister, as this comes down to blatant discrimination and is most definitely unconstitutional. Minister, take a moment to reflect on BEE and BBBEE, which, believe it or not, has been around for 2 decades. Your government's flagship plans and programs to reduce inequality and create jobs for Black South Africans has failed dismally, as they have in all respect had the opposite effect. You must admit, Minister, that it has made Black South Africans more unequal, because what it has done is put more money in the hands of the politically connected at the expense of ordinary Black South Africans. Luckily for this industry, you were dealt a bloody nose by AfriForum and Solidarity, who instituted a court case regarding this unconstitutional policy. We also await in abated breath the outcome of the court ruling. However, Minister, getting back to the budget, we are aware that the budget has significantly been cut by an amount of 606.4 million rand, which will affect goods and services, transfers and subsidies, as well as compensation of employees. One of the mandates of the budget is the stimulation of domestic travel, and this must be done vigorously, as we can no longer rely on attracting 21 million foreign arrivals by 2030 due to the current situation the whole world finds itself in. We are looking at 4.3 million domestic holiday trips by 2030, and this is only achievable through sustainable initiatives, as the COVID-19 pandemic has shifted the debate on sustainability in respect of travel. Minister, government needs to reframe what the successes in tourism needs to be for the present and the future, to see whether tourism is benefiting local communities, as this pandemic in all probability is going to be with us for a very long time. This pandemic has changed nothing, but on the other hand, it has changed everything. Tourism is one of those low-hanging fruits that South Africa should not only leverage, but also harness, not just as part of how we achieve our national priorities, but to also showcase our country, our people, and our culture to the world and to our own citizens. To sustain domestic tourism, the department, together with its stakeholders, must engage with local tourist entities to bring home the importance of the understanding and the awareness of the value of tourism and its opportunities, not only for them, but also for the tourist. Why do I say this, Minister? As we know, many local attractions throughout the whole of the country are not within reach of many of our citizens, as products are still priced for the international market. Let me take the lift gorge in Graskop as an example. For a family of 4, it will cost 690 Rand, plus an entrance fee of 30 Rand per adult and 20 Rand for a child between the ages of 4 and 16. This brings it to a total of 790 Rand. Minister, this is ludicrous, as the majority of our people cannot even put food on the table, let alone make use of the attractions in and around their areas. Many experiences that were popular in South Africa, like the bicycling tours through Soweto, started from a life experience that someone was bold enough to build into a flourishing business. This should be nurtured, and guidance should be given on how this business can remain an attraction during COVID-19 pandemic to attract local residents and travelers alike. With a total of 510,000 travelers passing through South African ports of entry, exit in January 2021, is an indication of how international travel has been impacted, and therefore the emphasis on domestic travel needs to be highlighted. For South African residents, the volume of arrivals decreased by 83.8%, departures decreased by 80.6%, and transits decreased by 93.5%. Minister, to further assist in building tourism, domestic tourism, you need to ensure the safety of all tourists. Collaboration with SAPS is therefore vital to showcase to all that safety and security is one of your top priorities. We need to remain cognizant to the need of imparting information and requirements timeously for travel to and within the country to put at ease the mind of our travelers, be they international or domestic travelers. The harsh lessons learned from the previous experiences should be our stepping stone. Importantly, the economic growth created by the sector impacts positively on the lives of ordinary people who are simultaneously beneficiaries and co-creators. It is a sector where entrepreneurship skills can come to life. And in view of the above, I would like to suggest that the Department of Education be approached to encourage learners to take tourism as a subject. This is for sure a career path that could lift many of our youth out of poverty. Tourism remains the main catalyst for economic growth, and therefore we need to see and experience that the economy, of which tourism is the largest contributor, is for all and not just for the politically connected under the guise of BEE. Furthermore, Minister, your department indicated to the Select Committee that you have adopted the Tourism Sector Recovery Plan, which is aligned to the country's economic reconstruction and recovery plan. Unfortunately, Minister, without adequate financial and non-financial support, this recovery strategy will remain meaningless, and we therefore urge you to prioritize public-private financing. Honorable Chair, globally and in our country, we have been through deep waters, something none of us anticipated. And if we think on our feet, change is definitely possible. I thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Boshoff. The next speaker is Honorable G.M. Mvoko, Eastern Cape MEC, Finance, Economic Affairs and Tourism, Mlungisi Mvoko.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, the Minister and the Deputy Minister, Honorable members. Good day. House Chair, as the Eastern Cape, we wish to congratulate the Minister for a budget vote. As a province that also thrives on tourism, the Eastern Cape has experienced first-hand economic devastation that the COVID-19 pandemic has had in the sector. It is for that reason that we are also implementing the Eastern Cape Tourism Recovery Plan, as informed by the 5-point plan for the economic recovery of the Eastern Cape, which also links with the National Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan and the Tourism Sector Recovery Plan. To this end, 19 million rand was set aside to bring this to life. On the one plan for tourism development at local level, House Chair, we welcome the prioritization of OR Tambo district and note the support received from the Department of Tourism, as well as other related sector departments, such as the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. Whilst there is still a lot of work to be done to realize investment in various tourism infrastructure projects, as identified in the Wild Coast Corridor Tourism Master Plan, we note that some projects are already underway, such as the 6-day hiking trail from Coffee Bay to Port St. John's, the infrastructure upgrades of Silaka and Hluleka Nature Reserves, respectively, as well as development of selected beaches which contribute to the implementation of the Oceans Economy Master Plan. Through the Provincial Economic Stimulus Fund, we're also upgrading tourism infrastructure within provincial protected areas, specifically Dweba, Dwesa, Chwebe, and Mkambati nature reserves. Recently, we have completed the Port St. John's cable cut feasibility study aimed at diversifying the tourism experiences within the coastal zone. It is anticipated that the one plan will assist with coordination and integration of tourism support services expected to be provided by other sector departments in relation to upgrading and maintenance of access roads to the tourism attraction and provision of bulk infrastructure. We're delighted with the investment made by the National Department of Tourism in the Sarah Batman District's Baviansloop World Heritage Site, where upgrades of the interpretive center and the Leopard Trail are currently being implemented. These will be finalized in the second half of this year, and we'll be delighted to host the minister once we hand over. Honorable House Chair, the province continues to benefit from many national-driven programs that are established to transform the sector. On the establishment of the Basic Quality Verification Program, which focuses on homestays, we welcome the visit of the Deputy Minister of Tourism together with the Deputy Minister of Small Business Development to the launch of this pilot program at Makana Local Municipality and the Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipalities in March 2021. This will not only ensure quality assured products for new entrants, but also create job opportunities for quality assurers. The 15 tourism graduate students trained as assessors are youth, and most of the 66 properties that participate in the program are women-owned and women-managed. This is an excellent choice for this pilot program due to major events hosted in these municipalities. The city of Makanda has always been very popular in terms of homestay accommodation, and we've always provided our support in the past. In terms of formal grading, the ECPTA has signed a memorandum of agreement with the Tourism Grading Council of South Africa for grading of Eastern Cape accommodation facilities. To date, 93 accommodation facilities have been assessed, 71 graded, and 22 to be presented in the next award committee meeting. Over and above, this entity has an MOU in place with South African Tourism for collaboration in destination marketing. That includes domestic, international, and events. We'll be looking forward to work with you on the training of the 225 SMMEs nationally on norms and standards for safe tourism operation. Honorable House Chair, we're experiencing a lot of interest in hosting of events. As part of the recovery plan, we will continue to support small-scale events to stimulate economic activity. In this regard, we are cautiously working on new partnerships to promote events with permissible protocols and encouraging hybrid sessions linked with the capacity of the venues. We remain hopeful that our anchor events that are linked to tourism in the province, the Grahamstown Arts Festival, Believe in November, Buele Kaya, and the Music Festivals will soon come back to life to continue to the economy of our province, subject to COVID-19 status. There is also an opportunity for new events of an international scale that include golf, water sports that are in the pipeline and looking for and look to take off in the Eastern Cape and take the Eastern Cape forward. Honorable House Chair, we have facilitated and supported designated groups, specifically youth and women with various training needs in tourist guiding, nature and culture guiding, first aid, kayaking, lifeguard, and massage therapy training in various key areas in the province. We therefore support the youth placement in tourism establishment for exposure and experience. These contribute to the diversification of tourism and experience and the transformation of the sector. We also welcome the continuation of the Educators Development Program, as well as the National Tourism Careers Expo. This program has proven very popular amongst the participants of the Eastern Cape, and it talks to our provincial transformation program. As I conclude, Honorable House Chair, I wish to concede that we shall give all the necessary support to the Minister and the department that he leads as we all strive towards to take the sector back to its glory days before COVID-19. With those few words, Honorable House Chairman, I wish to welcome the budget vote for the National Department of Tourism. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Nyambi, can you please take over?
Thank you, Mama. Thanks, greetings, colleagues. The next speaker is Honorable Moshodi. Honorable Moshodi. Honorable Moshodi.
About 2 months ago, on the 7th April, was exactly 150 years since a giant intellectual and visionary was born. Mama Charlotte Matek rose to become of the important figure in our struggle for liberation and women's rights. She led our people at the time when anyone who questioned the transformation of the system was at risk, was at the risk of being taken away from their loved ones, tortured, and even assassinated. In her address to the conference of the European and Bantu Christian Student Association at Fort Hare in June 1930, she said, many of the Bantu felt, and rightly too, that the laws of the land are not made for blacks and whites alike. Take the question of the permit from the right to look for work. The poor, unfortunately native, fresh from the country does not know of these rules and regulations, naturally breaks them and is thrown into prison. As I rise on behalf of the ANC to support budget vote number 38, tourism, we must never forget where we come from. Our terrible history should inspire us as lawmakers and public servants, unlike to double our effort to ensure that all our people feel included in the socio, economic, and political lives of South African nation. The tourism sector is essentially for the socio-economic development, growth, and transformation of our country. However, it still remains one of the least transformed sectors. The sixth administration is committed to ensuring that there are recognizable strides as it related to the transformation of the entire tourism value chain. We support government call to the Tourism Business Council of South Africa to interact with the tourism industry to drive inclusive growth through acceleration transformation in the sector, and for the council to focus its making strategy more towards promoting tourism in the village, township, and small town. This will ensure that the tourism sector benefits all the citizens across the country and contribute in dealing with the inequalities that exist between the urban and the rural communities. It is unfortunately that governments try to transform the tourism sector have always been met with resistance and hostility by those who represent not all South Africans, but a certain race group at the status quo. The right-wing forces are represented by the likes of AfriForum, DA, and Solidarity, are comfortable with heavy majority control and ownership, and fail to acknowledge that the injustice of the past continue to suppress Black people from reaching their full potential in the sector. The ANC applauds the work done by the minister and the department for using a crucial instrument such as BBEE, to redress injustice of the past and prioritize Black-owned SMMEs in the disbursement of 200 million, which had allocated from the Tourism Relief Fund. SMMEs play a vital role in the tourism sector, particularly in the accommodation and hospitality subsector. It is significant to note that approximately 58% of companies in the tourism industry generate less than 5 million in annual revenue, with about 70% of accommodation and hospitality business falling into the revenue bracket. Through the Tourism Relief Fund, 4,000 entrepreneurs were able to receive an amount of 50,000 each from government. In January this year, the Department of Tourism, as led by Minister Memamuloko Kubai Ngubani and the Deputy Minister Ntate Fish Matlalela, launched the Tourism Equity Fund with a total value of 1.2 billion. This fund was created for the provision of debt finance and grant funding to enterprises with 51% Black ownership, so as to facilitate equity acquisition as well as new project development in the tourism sector. It was not surprising that this process was once again interdicted by AfriForum and Solidarity. These two organizations continue to prove that the agenda is to block inclusive growth and development of all South Africans and protect ethnic groups in our society and to maintain apartheid privilege. As the ANC, we will continue to rally behind the good work done by the government and partner in the transformation and growth of South African tourism sector. The transformation of the sector remains incomplete without the inclusion of women. Women in the tourism sector are in majority in terms of participation. However, they are found at very low-level jobs as cleaners and waitress. Women, Blacks, and white are generally absent at managerial and ownership level. The ANC celebrates the women who constantly strive to make progress within the sector, such as Dimakatso Mawela, who recently launched the House of the Legacy non-alcoholic wine brand. The wine industry is an important part of the tourism value chain. South Africa also has an increasing number of the world-class restaurants with South Africans wine at the center of the possible recovery of the sector. A study done by the wine industry body Fabro found that wine tourism is significant revenue generator for South African economy, having contributed 7.2 billion to the GDP in 2019. This includes direct expenditure of the visitor at the wine farm, indirect expenditure of goods bought by webinars from other local businesses to deliver the tourism services, as well as induced expenditure by the webinars employees at shops. The wine industry is indeed an important contributor to South African economy in terms of jobs, the multiplier effect and national income. Program number 4 of the department, APP, which speaks to the tourism sector support services, have been allocated 436.6 million for 2021-2022 financial year. The purpose of this program is to enhance transformation, increase skills level, and support the development of the sector to ensure that South Africa is a competent tourism destination. We are confident that the increase of more than 58% of program number 4 will enable the department to drive more transformative programs aimed at developing women participation across the country, especially in the rural part of our beautiful land. In honor of Mama Charlotte Mateke, let us call all stakeholders in the sector to work together to transform tourism. We believe that transformation can be a win-win proportion, because spreading opportunity is the only way to build a stable and growing South Africa. As the ANC, we support this budget vote. I thank you, Honorable House Chair. Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, House Chair. Chair, I'm done.
Honorable House Chair, is there a problem? Whilst we are waiting for the House Chair to return, we can now call on
Fine,
Honorable
Mama.
Okay.
Thank you, the Honorable Moshodu. The next speaker is the Limpopo MEC for Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, Honorable Mokoni.
Honorable House Chair and members of the NCOP, Minister of Tourism, Honorable Mamluko Kubayi Ngubane, Deputy Minister Fish Mashalele, we also wish you a speedy recovery. MECs from various provinces, my colleagues, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Tourism, Chairperson of the Select Committee on Trade and Industry, Economic Development, Small Business Development, Tourism and Employment and Labor, members of Parliament, South African Tourism Board members, ladies and gentlemen. We want to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing us to address you today as we come together to debate the budget speech delivered by the Ministry of Tourism, delivered on the 18th May 2021. As the Limpopo province, we support the ministry for the leadership displayed during the hard lockdown brought by the sudden attack of the COVID-19 pandemic, which was felt across the whole tourism value chain. Research conducted on national and provincial level since lockdown in March 2020 clearly indicate that many tourism businesses are already in great distress, with staff, especially part-time seasonal workers, retrenched or put on unpaid leave. It is, however, believed that due to the fact that tourism is a highly resilient sector, and that with adequate support, the sector has the ability to bounce back strongly. With the support of the Department of Tourism, South African Tourism, private sector role players, the department, and Limpopo Tourism Agency, commenced with the process to engage with the industry to ignite domestic tourism and to roll out key identified priorities as espoused in the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. The framework of the plan is guided by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, call for action to mitigate the socio-economic impact of COVID-19 and accelerate recovery, published on the 1st of April 2020, as well as the approved tourism sector recovery plan developed at national level, driven by the Department of Tourism. The province has also been selected as one of the pilot projects for Women in Tourism program, supported by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, a project that will capacitate women-owned project and enhance its marketability for job creation and economic growth. To this end, 2 rural tourism projects have been identified at Bilenisol Pen and Twananani Textile. In support of the national initiative, the Limpopo province hosted a number of consultative sessions and drive to get the public to travel again. Limpopo Development, Economic Development, Environment and Tourism facilitated and coordinated access to relief funds that were rolled out by national department and state-owned entities during this pandemic. 294 tourism establishments benefited from the 200 million National Department of Tourism Relief Fund. The province also provided tourism relief funding to 428 businesses to the tune of 9 million rands. The safety of our visitors is high on the agenda, and partnership program will be implemented with the Department of Tourism involving our youth to ensure sustainability. Delivery of quality services within establishment is also encouraged through various platforms implemented in partnership with Tourism Grading Council of South Africa. Limpopo also supports the training of SMEs on norms and standards for safe tourism operation. A dedicated program targeting youth tourism graduates who are placed within municipalities to strengthen tourism capacity at local level will be implemented again for the coming 3 years. This program has proven not only as an economic relief through stipend, but contribute to the delivery of quality tourism services within municipalities and serves as a link to both province and national tourism structures. Limpopo has always supported the hosting of National Tourism Career Expo, which has contributed a lot in educating our youth on a new career that has become the new gold. The hosting of the annual Limpopo Marula Festival has been used to host a built-up tourism career expo, reaching in excess of 3,000 learners who have taken tourism at matric level. The province is planning to host an infrastructure conference in the month of August for the purpose of bringing together all stakeholders to work towards an improved infrastructure that grows the tourism economy. The Limpopo Tourism Agency is using digital platform of website and social media in partnership with tourism industry to create brand awareness of Limpopo as preferred and leading tourism destination in South Africa, reaching over 8 million people. The province is forging ahead with tourism transformation agenda to increase value to this program. We have commenced with the commercialization of 47 nature reserves owned by government. Evaluation is underway for 3 commercialization projects that were advertised, and they will be awarded very soon. An additional 4 will be advertised before the end of June 2021. We have a responsibility as government to ensure that communities benefit from these rich natural resources which are on their doorstep. We have signed a co-management agreement with some of the communities bordering protected areas. This process facilitated and encouraged good relationship between management authority and the neighboring communities. This type of partnership did not only create a platform for much needed jobs, but also provide tangible economic and social benefit for communities residing adjacent to protected areas. We would like to earnestly thank Minister Mamluko Kubai and the Deputy Minister Fish Mashalel for visiting our province many a time to counsel and provide necessary support to both the department and tourism industry. We further applaud the Minister for her consistent leadership in coordinating MINMEC to champion the issues pertaining to tourism. The province is in pursuance of the same goal, is also convening MINMEC MEC Forum quarterly. This will go a long way in collective decision-making. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, we would like to commend the Minister for her stewardship in delivering on the priorities for tourism sector jointly with our province. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC Mokoni. The next speaker is Honorable Matevula. Honorable Matevula.
Nakenza Mutsamashitolo. Minister, tourism play a significant role in the country economic transformation and job creation. It also leads in the economic upliftment and community development. The exclusion of Black South Africans to participate in this industry is a major challenge, and your department is failing to achieve its target in terms of transforming the industry, as it is still dominated by few minorities with male dominated in managerial position. Many few Black people who are participating in this industry, especially from rural areas and townships, are struggling with no proper training and financial assistance. Minister, your department is very comfortable in training people in big cities and neglect those operating in rural areas and township municipalities. Xikombiso ka ti-training leti ndzawulo ya n'wina yi nga ti endla eka xifundza xa hina xa Limpopo. Ti-training leti a ti endliwa emadorobeni lamakulu. Ku komba ku ri ndzawulo ya n'wina ya tsandzeka ku pfuna van'waswibindzwana va le makaya ni swidorobani leswitsongo. Timali ta mpfuno leti a mi nyikiwe tona, ndzawulo ya n'wina yi tsandzeka ku pfuna xibindzwana xin'we xa le Giyani. Your department is slow in terms of transformation, which is hindering many Black people to participate in this mainstream of the economy, especially with women involvement and people living with disabilities. Minister, small and medium tourism must be used as a transformative initiative to transform this industry. Minister, tourism infrastructure in many township and rural areas are outdated and underdeveloped. One practical example, Minister, is the Mangombe Nature Reserve in Giyani in Limpopo. This ideal place previously where you can learn more about the Shangani history. The infrastructure is not properly maintained. Minister, Limpopo is one of the most popular destinations for day travelers because of the unavailability of 4- and 5-star accommodation. This is the main reason why travelers choose to go somewhere else. Minister, many tourism destinations in rural areas and townships are not properly marketed, as many are operating in remote areas where internet is a major challenge. Minister, internet has a good role in tourism in marketing, which makes it difficult for those operating in rural areas and townships to compete equally with big operators. Minister, safety is always a paramount consideration for travelers. Before they travel, previously we have experienced tourism attacks in the most visited places in our country, such as the Table Mountain in the Western Cape and in Palabura in Limpopo. Minister, one tourist visit in our country creates 7 jobs for our people. We cannot have tourists cancel trips to our country because of safety. Minister, we must have police visibility in the hotspot area where tourists visit. As the EFF, we reject this budget vote number 38. Na cancer chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Dutoit. Honorable Dutoit.
Dankie, agbare voorsitter. Hoekom word minderheidsgroepe in Suid-Afrika uitgesluit as dit by hulpverlening deur die regering kom, waar almal deur die inperking en ekonomiese druk geraak word? Hoekom word sogenaamde hulp gepromoveer, uitgewasyn en op die voorblaai geadverteer as dit slegs volgens ras beskikbaar gestel word? Afrikaans is so 'n wonderlike taal, dis omskrywend en beskrywend sonder om noodwendig op die man af, of nou in hierdie geval op die vrou af te wees as ons sê dat jakkals prys sy eie stert, wanneer 'n sekere minister smalend aankondig dat sy selektief help. Daar word deur sommige gesê dat sekere hooggeplaastes van podium tot podium te spring om aan te kondig hoeveel befondsing hul selektief uitdis te midde van die alomteenwoordige hongerpyne en hulpkrete. Aksies soos hierdie is bloot populisties en wreed. Marula Media reported that 7.2 million people are currently unemployed in South Africa. 701,000 individuals lost their jobs the last quarter of 2020. Van die 682,000 mense wat vanaf die aanvang van die grendeltydel werk in Suid-Afrika verloor het, is slegs 92,000 weer in diens geneem. The purpose of Vote 38 tourism is among others to promote and support the growth and development of an equitable, competitive and sustainable tourism sector, enhancing its contribution to national priorities. But what is really happening on the ground? The tourism sector was the victim to suffer the longest under the stringent lockdown regulations. In December 2020, The amount of overseas visitors to South Africa decreased by 86% compared to December 2019. An estimated loss in turnover of 85% was incurred. Volgens Monica Meinhardt wil dit voorkom of die aanvanklike selektiewe keuringsregulasies met betrekking tot hulpverlening deur die departement ongeveer 93% van die bestaande toerismeondernemings uitgesluit het. Dit is swart en wit ondernemings met die grootste persentasie werknemers wat hieronder lê wat swart is en so wat 2/3 van die arbeidsmark uitmaak. Praat van jouself in die voetskiet. I do not understand the department's current destructive transformation approach. The part about giving new entrants an opportunity makes sense, but to do it to the detriment of so many established businesses and fellow South Africans is just ridiculous. Om die fokus op transformasie te plaas, voorsitter, midde die pandemie is 'n skande en hierdie is 'n stryd om oorlewing. The preamble of the Constitution reads as follows, quote, improve the quality of all citizens and free the potential of each person, close quote. This section is inclusive and not selective. I'm proud to say that the Freedom Front Plus is the only party that is taking place in this debate that have never supported BEE, affirmative action or triple BEE legislation. Ek herhaal dit in Afrikaans. Die VF+ is die enigste party wat in hierdie debat deelneem wat nog nooit rasgebaseerde wetgewing ondersteun het. Aanstellings moet op meriete plaasvind. Daar moet gelyke behandeling wees en dit moet geld vir almal ongeag hul ras. The South African tourism industry lost more than 300,000 jobs due to the hard lockdown. Jobs lost due to the ANC's power-hungry executive and transformative approach. The Deputy Minister of Tourism in February 2021 said that it is estimated that businesses in the Bojanala district in the Northwest province alone have lost more than 600 million rand. The tourism industry can't afford such losses, Jay. The South African economy can't afford such losses. You can't allow a section of a sector to dry up and suffocate just to fulfill your political mandate. Your responsibility is to all South Africans. The Radical Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan was announced in October 2020. It has been stalled due to intervention of the courts. We acknowledge Solidariteit and AfriForum for the effort and pray the court will rule in favor of all South Africans and not a selected few. We are not here to nib at your heels. We're not here to prove a point. We are proving a point. By the grace of God, we have come thus far. We have survived in spite of the onslaught. We have thrived. And yes, we encountered setbacks that were created by this government. The tourism sector in South Africa will not give the ANC the satisfaction of disappearing into the oblivion so that you can blow your transformative victory horn. The tourism sector and South Africa will survive the ANC rule. We are surviving. Suffering does not destroy faith, it refines it. We have faith and we will not be trampled on. Ons is trots, ja, en ons respekteer ander. Ons sal nie toelaat dat ons menswaardigheid en ons standaarde deur julle degraderende, haatdraande optredes negatief beïnvloed word nie. Om die morele hoëgrond te behou, is vir ons
As you conclude,
dis 'n aangename leefwyse. We will prevail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to all honorable members and the Minister. I'm sorry, may I be allowed to mute the video?
You are allowed, Honorable Ngwezi.
The advent of COVID-19 necessitated this Parliament's adoption of the new normal and manner in which we conduct our parliamentary oversight and duties. However, have we been able to fulfill the mandates and responsibilities that we have been charged with as servants of the citizenry during this period? The answer to that, to some extent, it is in the affirmative, and we have been able to pass budgets, consider legislation, receive ministerial reports, and have question sessions with both the President and the Deputy President. But there have also been shortcomings due to COVID-19 restrictions. we were not able to physically engage with the public as we are normally accused of.
Honorable Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi, you have muted. Honorable Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi, your mic is muted.
Chairperson, I suggest that you go to the next speaker until we find Honorable Ngwezi.
No, we'll try to find him. You are correct, Honorable Matebula. Let's go straight to Honorable Ryder. Honorable Ryder.
Thank you, House Chairperson. House Chair, the tourism industry in South Africa is dead. May it rest in peace. And as the tourism minister agrees with me and points to COVID-19, let me say that while COVID-19 certainly has been devastating, it was the efforts of our government that have taken this patient from casualty straight to the morgue. Crude and insensitive language, perhaps, in this time of bereavement, but certainly no cruder nor more insensitive than the treatment that this government has given to her citizens. The lockdown restrictions on gatherings and alcohol sales, limits on hours and types of events have all been devastating. The interprovincial travel restrictions, while short-lived, also took their toll, but the international travel ban was the big blow. And so the industry was wounded and limping, and then along came government to strike the fatal blow to many operators. But true to ANC government form, it didn't rely on only one weapon in its arsenal to strike with. It threw in everything that it could think of. The failure to plan for vaccine procurement meant a very late start. The lack of vaccines makes us an attractive destination for travelers, with the third wave and possibly even a fourth, all bringing a return of lockdown restrictions. Restrictions that will test the last few remaining operators to absolute breaking point. Add to that the department's failure to do the appropriate accreditation of cruise operators on time, despite all of them passing the onboard inspections, and government therefore forcing the likes of the world's biggest operator, MSC Cruises, to cancel cruise season for 2021. And of course, the disgusting race-based support system offered to tourism businesses. Minister, what your department totally fails to grasp is that the majority of fragile tourism businesses, those that really needed government's assistance, are often small family-run operations. If that family happens to have been born with the wrong color skin, must they lose out? You are taking us back to apartheid, Minister. When you were last in this house, I asked you if you were using the pencil test to determine eligibility for your scheme. It was a pointed question, Minister, to show that all you are doing is continuing apartheid, but with the roles reversed. Everybody accepts the need for redress, but to use a crisis to cut off individuals from government relief is no better than the ideology of Verwoerd. What about the suppliers into those family businesses? What about their staff? What about their middle-income customers who use them because they are more affordable than the big operators who can afford multiple shareholders and fancy shareholding structures? No thought given to the knock-on effect of your plan. We can only thank our courts for intervening, though this has further delayed the distribution of these desperately needed funds. But don't blame the courts for that. Blame your department, Minister, and yourself for coming up with a patently unconstitutional scheme. And now you proudly say today that you'll be wasting more taxpayers' money in an appeal that will only serve to further delay the distribution of this desperately needed support. But we are here to talk about the budget today, House Chair, and when one scratches into the budget proposals for 2021, one sees only a small reduction, comparatively small, to the tourism budget. It's a clear indicator of the reliance that government is placing on this sector to lead in economic recovery. In the medium term, the budget has also remained only slightly reduced from where it was intended to be in the pre-COVID reality. The fact is that the trust placed by Treasury and the Cabinet need to be repaid with a concerted effort to put the department's budget to best use to achieve a multiplier effect. The money that this department spends should result in money coming straight back into the pot in the form of more tax revenue, earned not as a result of higher tax rates, but as a result of increased profits in a booming industry. But sadly, the department's plans are off to a poor start, with massive underspending in the last financial year. Blame it on COVID, I already hear you saying, Minister, but let's look where the money wasn't spent. The biggest underspending was on projects 2 and 4 of the department. What are they? Project 2 is, and the title is Tourism Research, Policy and International Relations. And Project 4 is Tourism Sector Support Services. Now, it seems to me that these are the very 2 projects which should have and could have received a massive focus under COVID conditions. Someone who starts to build an ark once the rain has started is going to drown. The guy who built the ark during the dry season is the one who saves the day. And so during the long hours of lockdown, when millionaire managers should have been tapping at their keyboards, coming up with great new ideas, policy changes, and new ways to reimagine and reignite tourism, these hours were wasted, as clearly thumbs were twiddled since the budget was woefully underspent, and no new ideas or no new constitutionally compliant ideas were forthcoming. What a sad display of a dead department. When one looks at the budget details spread over pages 771 to 784 of the voluminous estimates of national expenditure, it actually looks like a cut and paste of last year's details. Wait, hold on. There's a short edition under the detail of Program 2, which looks to facilitate regional integration. There's also some long overdue maintenance that's planned under Program 3, and in Program 4, the training of 20 port of entry personnel. 20 is what we're aiming at, focusing on the Portuguese and French speaking. Forgive me for not leaping about with enthusiasm, Minister. This budget shows a distinct lack of new ideas or even understanding of your portfolio. More of pretty much the same is not what's going to revive this industry. Just drive up Long Street in Cape Town one evening and look at what has become of this erstwhile tourism hotspot. It's dead. Please, Minister, use your authority and shake up this department, or hand the reins over to somebody who will. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ryder. The next speaker is Honorable Dango. Honorable Dango.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members. The domino effect of the coronavirus global pandemic has brought undue pain, hardships to many individuals and businesses in all corners of the world, not South Africa. Tourism has always been one of the industries hardest hit by pandemics and crises. Throughout history, the industry has borne the brunt of major pandemics and plagues, notably the Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920, SARS, 2002 to 2004, swine flu, 2009 to 2010, and the Ebola virus, 2014 to 2016. The tourism industry is in a unique situation because traveling serves as a vector for spreading the virus. Therefore, it is usually targeted for breaking the chain of the spread of the virus. In 2020, the volume of tourists decreased by 72.6 from 10.2 million in 2019 to 2.8 million in 2020. Foreign arrivals dropped from 71% to 15.8 in 2019 to less than 1 million in 2020. But I think there's also an issue there. If I listen to the opposition, and I want to repeat what the Minister of Finance said, we have come together as black and white to become partners, hopefully, in a new South Africa. But as you speak and those opposition, as the opposition, other people listen to the opposition, they will not come to South Africa because all we do is send out a negative message. For tourism, we need a positive message to attract people to come to South Africa, honorable members. These are not just numbers. These are statistics that have direct implications on the livelihoods of operators of tourism establishment and the incomes of many working class families and the poor. COVID-19 is a deadly pandemic that takes lives. Faced with this crisis, the government, led by President Ramaphosa, imposed various levels of restrictions that resulted in the closure of many economic activities. These measures were arrived at after seeking advice of experts in various fields. As a caring government, the ANC prioritized the saving of lives of our people, while at the same time seeking to put pressure to save their livelihoods. Having said that, Honorable Chairperson, tourism investment in talent. Through the Tourism Relief Fund, not only were 4,000 SMMEs assisted, but 4,650 qualifying freelancing tourist guides, many of whom were young people and who were not eligible to apply for UIF, were able to get assistance through the establishment of the Tourism Guide Relief Fund. They received 1,500 per month over a period of 3 months. This may not be much, but for unemployed youth, this could make a difference between having a meal or going hungry. We salute the initiatives taken in various provinces and municipalities. The Tourism Green Coast, which is another youth program, has helped youth from the Wild Coast to find employment rather than go on being unemployed and complaining, and also to start their own business in the tourism industry. The Green Fund is part of the tourism's expanded public works program and is being implemented by the Wildlife Environmental Society of South Africa. In July 2020, 119 youth from the Eastern Cape obtained a national certificate in tourism guiding as a result of a 2-year program, which helped them develop skills and gain work experience at various tourism establishments. Along the Wild Coast, 32 of the youth have found permanent employment and 7 have registered their own businesses, while the rest want to start their own businesses in the future. The story of participants in the public employment program, which are attempting to start their own businesses, have some way to go, and we hope that they will be successful. Honorable Chairperson, we are proud of the steadfast leadership that the ministry and the department and the work that they've done across the 9 provinces to showcase a variety of experiences and attractions and establishments which help to inspire confidence. These showcases have put on the spotlight on those areas that have allowed them to gain traction in the market. Integration of the rural and township tourist initiatives to the tourism recovery plan. The tourism sector recovery plan provides a good foundation for the path that we ought to take in rebuilding the tourism sector and strengthening the resilience for future generations. We believe that this plan must be supported by all South Africans as it aims to reduce the impact of COVID-19 crisis in their employment. The plan also recognizes that the domestic travel is a key driver of tourism, and the recovery effort should therefore be focused upon that. Domestic demand will entail the rollout of domestic deal-driven campaigns coinciding with the various tourism peak periods. Collaborative initiatives with the industry to support tourism in rural township areas. We note that the Tourism Grading Council has started rolling out the pilot phase of the basic quality verification program in the Eastern Cape. This program seeks to give the emerging entrepreneurs and small business owners an opportunity to grow their businesses by attracting both domestic and international markets. In this regard, many of them have been trained recently, and they are showcasing what they've been trained about, and some of them are in fact coming up with new tourism packages. This will enable travelers to enjoy the unique and authentic tourism experiences around the villages and small towns. We hope that the pilot program is successfully completed with programs that gets out to the provinces. I want to, with that, invite the Honorable Ryder and the Honorable Dutoy to have lunch in Kumalo Street. This will promote local tourism. And possibly when they're available in this part of Gauteng, I could take them all to those particular areas and also show them the tourist attractions around those areas and the young people that are coming into tourism there and the restaurants that have been started in the area to promote tourism. With that, Honorable Chair, I want to say that I understand that the business of opposition is being in opposition. You are paid for being in opposition, but you don't have to be negative being in opposition. In opposition, you are the opposition, you are not the enemy. And to repeat what the Minister of Finance said, we are partners, we had come together, black and white, all of us in South Africa, to create and to build a new South Africa. And let us go forward with a positive attitude, an attitude that will say to foreign visitors and other visitors, please visit South Africa. It's a good destination. It's a desired destination. It's a destination that people can come to, where they can feel safe and where they will get value for money. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dango. Now I invite the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Honorable Gupai Ngubane, to conclude the debate. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Let me appreciate honorable members who have supported our budget vote. I must indicate, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, no sector of our economy should remain a preserve of a few, and tourism is no exception to that. And real tourism business people will tell you there is no sustainability without inclusivity. The people of South Africa gave the African National Congress the mandate to pursue inclusive growth of our economy. This we shall continue to pursue no matter what may be thrown at us, no matter what may be thrown at us, whether it's insults, it's labeling, whether it's here in the house, whether it's on social media or court battles. We are also not naive to the realities that there are those amongst us who have always known and basked in white privilege and comfort, whose resolve is to protect such at the expense of the Black majority. They reminisce about labor reservoirs in the Black townships and their inhabitants who dare dream of challenging the supremacy of the masters. We defeated apartheid, and yes, the struggle continues. We shall never stop until economic transformation is achieved, Chair. It is a just cause, it's a battle, it's a fight that is worth fighting for, and we are prepared to fight it. This we are doing because this government was given a mandate by the majority to transform and to ensure that they have a better life. What honorable members are talking here, where they designate Black people for being just workers, you have the nerve to tell us that what we must worry about is not Black people being owners. What we must worry about is about Black people being employees in their country of birth and their ancestral land. They have no authority to be business owners, and this government must not support them to that quest. Many of the people who today are telling us that we seem to be racially racist in approaching and doing what we are doing, you forget that the playing field is not leveled. You can't say when you are 2 kilometers ahead and you say to somebody, let's race. How are you supposed to race when somebody is ahead of you? What we are trying to do with Tourism Equity Fund, we want to make sure that people are standing on the same lane. This is not a relief fund, honorable members. Please remember, you seem to think that tourism equity, it's about relief. It's not a relief fund. Even if courts can say to us, we are not going to implement tourism equity fund, the money can be directed to relief. We are done with giving grants that are not sustainable in terms of going forward. We want to make sure that the sector is sustainable in terms of transformation, but equity. It is a willing buyer, willing seller approach that we have. Those who are willing to sell, those who are willing to come on board, let them do so. No one is forced to abandon their assets. They've continued to say they do not want to benefit from government. That's why they've never paid attention to BEE. So we are willing to work with those who think that this democracy is under threat because it's not sustainable, because those who are majority who continue to fight pre-apartheid for inclusive. What is the benefit of in this country to have the government of the people by the people when you can never be an active participant in its economy? You must continue to be a worker. So it's okay for a Black person to continue. If you look at statistics, you will see that the poverty face of this country is a Black woman. Why must it happen 27 years ago into democracy? And you are saying that we have allowed it to happen because we continue to listen to you and compromise. That time has come to an end. That's why I told AfriForum and Solidarity, we will never go to the middle ground, because middle ground has brought us 27 years down the line with a sector that is like this, that is untransformed, that is not catering for the majority of South Africans. So, Honorable Machabula, manamina nkomela uya cheka kahle. Leswi nga na swona wa ka hina a swona. Hi train at rural areas a Limpopo. Famba languta n'wana ka hina. A Vembe hina vanhu nga va trainer. A Capricorn hina vanhu nga va trainer. A Mopana. We have trained in those communities. We have ensured that people can be able to train and get opportunities that we have. So, honorable member, please, just verify your facts before you come and throw stones. The issue, one of the departments that is focused on rural activities consciously is this one, where we are ensuring townships previously disadvantaged, and it's a conscious decision we have taken. That's why MEC Mukoni can tell you about the rural projects we are doing with women in Limpopo, in the rural areas, not urban areas. So that's what we are doing. I want to appreciate my colleagues, honorable members, the MECs who have joined us. Thank you very much for the partnership. We do work very well, and we've always been able to work very well. And I think we will be able to build a better sector going forward. So regional integration, Honorable Ryder, I don't know how you read documents. Regional integration means that we will work in marketing with SADC. That's part of tourism sector support, tourism sector recovery plan. Please read it so that you can understand. What sometimes I find difficulty, Chairperson, is when you engage, and sometimes we provide written answers to members. Please utilize our opportunity when we engage both in the select committee and through the tools of Parliament to really get clarity on what departments are doing, because sometimes it's futile to come and debate, and you find that members have a wrong perception and even I don't know whether it's reading wrong of documents or somebody has written a speech wrongly. Because if you don't even have the basis, you don't even understand the basis that Tourism Equity Fund is not a tourism relief fund. It just makes it difficult in a debate. If you don't even understand that tourism regional integration is part of marketing that we talk about in the tourism sector recovery plan, which by the way, is driven by the sector tourism. I'm not so sure how am I supposed as minister now to come into a debate, because really we should be focusing to say, what are the issues? How do we work together? I think I support what Honorable Boshoff came to, leave the other issues where she thinks black people must be workers. But the issue of pricing, we've started addressing it from last year, where you have more of our sector people to international prices. To say that,
as you conclude, Minister.
Thank you very much for those who supported the budget vote. Aluta continua.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you. Honorable members, allow me to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Minister Gupai Ngubane, Minister of Tourism, our special delegates, the MEC from different provinces. The House now is suspended till 2 o'clock, where we'll be debating budget vote 2. Honorable Minister and the special delegates, thank you for availing yourself for this important sector of tourism. Thank you very much. Now the House is suspended till 2 o'clock for the budget vote 2. Thank you.
Recording stop.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thank you.